Perfect Digestive Health. This is the place, as I said, where digestion starts. You've got to get this right. If your digestive tract's not working properly, your health is probably never going to be in the right place. It just simply won't be there. It won't. Because all your nutrients that come into your body have to go through your digestive tract. I mean, they've got to come from your digestive tract. And if it's not working properly, you're in trouble, okay? So get ready to change your health forever, like we did as a family. I know I'm repeating myself. So this is what today basically looks like. We're going to take a look at overall, what's the problem with our health issues. We're going to look at our body and how smart it is. We're going to look at the digestive system, find out how it's supposed to work, because that's very often the real problem is we don't actually know how our bodies work. I'm going to give you guidelines or a blueprint for perfect digestive health. And if you apply these principles, you will see results and your life will never be the same again. Your health will never be the same if you stick to it. If you do it for 5 days and give up and go and do something else, then you're going to be in trouble. And I know this. Why? Because I've been doing this for close on 40 years. I said my daughter's going to be 38 and I started before she was even born. It started several years before she was even conceived. We were on this route with all my allergies and Mark's indigestion and all the health issues that we have. And we'll talk a little bit more about that in a couple of minutes. So if you apply it, you will see results and your life will never be the same. There will be time for questions at the end. If for any reason we can't get it through, sometimes there are glitches. We have other ways and means. I just gave you the telephone number. And somebody can just add that. Mark can just add his telephone number into the chat. Or I gave it to you, 084 084. If you're in another country, add +27 before that. So 084 22. That's 2244-200. All right. So if you really need specific help and guidance, there are other options for you. So I will make sure that we give you those other options. Okay. So a book changed our lives. Very much like a book changed my life when it came to my mood swings and bipolar. It was a book called Sugar Blues. This book changed our lives in 1985. And it originally was, we got hold of this book called Food Combining for Health. And I didn't put this up because it's not the original book. I mean, this is Food Combining for Health was an interesting book that Mark saw advertised by two women called Doris Grant and Jean Joyce. That's it over there. And when I read it, I wanted to read the book that they read. And so this next book is really what changed their life, because very often people will write a book about their experiences. I'm like, I want to know the science. I want the physiology. I want to know, how did this all start? And I can be an absolute pest. I can be a little bit like a bull terrier and not let go. I want to know right down to the nth degree. Somebody said to me the other day, they took some moringa. They were busy fasting. They took some moringa and they had this terrible headache from fasting, and it just went away in half an hour. And I said, she must know this is like medicine to her. And I said to her, there's got to be something in it that's either a stimulant that would stop your headache or something that's stabilizing your blood sugar. And I've looked at moringa and I can't find any solid science that's based on human beings using it for several years, and they haven't really studied it in much detail. But what has come out of it is that when they've done tests on rats and mice, it stabilizes blood sugar. Well, when I came back to her a day later and I said, okay, I've now found the research as to why it would stop your headache, is that you would stabilize your blood sugar. Because when you fast and you're not eating anything or you're not eating much, your blood sugar will drop. And when your blood sugar drops, you can get a terrible headache from migraine. Okay? So it changed our life in that my allergies and reflux and bloating, my stomach was always bloated. I would get up in the morning and put on a pair of pants or a skirt. And, like by after lunchtime, I was having to actually take out my blouse or my top to sort of cover my stomach, because my stomach, I would look like I was 6 or 8 months pregnant. It was terrible. So I'd have this terrible bloating and distension in my stomach, which would be a wake up in the morning with a flat stomach. By the end of the day, I looked positively pregnant. I had reflux in that if I lay down or bent over, I remember this as a child, I would have food coming through my, into my esophagus and right sometimes into my mouth. It's bitter, horrible, acrid tasting stuff. It was too disgusting for words. I was never one of these kids that I've never found it easy to vomit. So it would come up and then go back down, and it was just too awful for words. And as a result, one of the side effects of having a digestive tract where your food is not digesting efficiently is that you'll have allergies, and we'll talk more about that later on. But the real book that changed my life was this one, the science-based one. And this is the real book. and this is called A New Health Era, and that is Dr. William Howard Hay. He was real medical maverick. He was running a center to help people with allergies. He was running a medical center, and then he developed what they call Bright's disease in those days, which today would say is really high blood pressure with some strain on the kidneys. And so he wanted to get his blood pressure right, and he started playing around with looking at what people years before him had done it and looking at the physiology of the digestive tract. And basically, he's the one that kind of started people on this road to helping them understand that when you digest your food, you need very specific pH values in your stomach. And if you put certain foods together, they mix and they start fermenting, and then it can cause all kinds of side effects. Well, with him, it ended up that it was causing this high blood pressure, and he also had some issues, potential issues with heart disease developing. And he changed his diet, and all his symptoms went away, and he went on to change thousands of people, if not millions of people's lives. Because I know over the years, we've got to about 300,000 people. Well, that's how many of our books have sold. And they say for each book that's sold, 10 people read the book, because people lend them to their books, their friends. They may end up in a bookshop, somebody might buy it. But usually they say for each book sold, roughly 10 people will read the book. So that's really, we've got to about 3 million people. And Dr. William Howard Hay was based in America, and he got to a whole lot more people. So probably several million. And the interesting thing is that people like Henry Ford follow these principles. Now, Henry Ford was the originator of the Ford motor car. He was known for innovation. He had a lot of energy. He's well known that he would have these power naps, sleep very little, and have these 20-minute power naps. He was very focused. And of course, he developed the Ford motor vehicles. Kind of think of him as an Elon Musk of back then. And very, very interesting that he followed them. So it's very interesting. Now, I remember when I told my father that we were following Dr. Hay's way of eating in the 1980s, he said he once dated a girl in the early 1950s, and her family ate like that. So how interesting was that? I sort of pity my father didn't stay, but let's have a look at what our problem is today. The problem today is that many people have got digestive issues. And when we look at some of the statistics, you'll see that they're right at the top of the, in the top 3 for cancer and the top 2 for types of cancer. Stomach cancer is the number 2 form of cancer that people will die from. So we'll take a look at those stats in a little while. But, people have got reflux where the food is spilling up into the esophagus, and you'll see we'll discuss some of the treatments that people use and to try and sort out their problems. Indigestion, which means that you've not quite got reflux, but you've got your food literally sitting and not digesting properly. It's sitting in your stomach. It feels heavy, you feel uncomfortable, and you just don't feel like you can lie down very comfortably. You can have the bloating, like I did. Irritable bowel syndrome, known as IBS. That means you can fluctuate from chronic constipation and to diarrhea. You have this, sometimes there's diarrhea, sometimes there's constipation. And then there are many other digestive problems. I mean, you look at the digestive problems and you start looking at the medical research, even things like non-alcoholic cirrhosis of the liver, for example, is considered a digestive problem, and pancreatitis is considered a digestive problem. So it's not just the digestive tract that you'll look at. And this over here is your stomach, this blue bag over here, with coming from your esophagus and then going out into the duodenum over there. So it could be anything. It could be, you could have stomach ulcers, it could be Crohn's disease, ulcerative colitis. There's so many different types of digestive disease. Some people have, and the interesting thing is that new names are given to them, because we used to call indigestion when we were growing up as kids as heartburn. Then it became indigestion, then it became reflux. It's like, manic depression became bipolar, and then it became bipolar disorder, and then it became bipolar hyperactivity attention deficit disorder, and it's expanding all the time. And I almost think it's when we start figuring out what's going on, then they change the name so that we can feel really stupid again. It doesn't matter what the digestive problem is. It could be starting in your mouth, it could be your esophagus, it could be a problem with reflux and indigestion, bloating, flatulence. It could be further down in the duodenum. It doesn't matter. What I'm going to share with you today will help every person with any type of digestive problems. And it's not just the digestive problems. You find that when your digestion's not working, you could find you suffering from things like brain fog, the central nervous system may not work properly, You may find that you have got no energy, your immune system, your endocrine and hormonal system, all of that might have problems. So you can start this. I'm going to give you this blueprint, these principles, to help you separate your past from your future. Because from this minute on is your past, and from now on is your future, and you're going to look at your future. And you need to come to the table with the right mindset, basically. You have to have the right mindset, and we'll talk a little bit more about this, okay? So why do you need to fix this problem? You can just keep trying some medication, have some surgery, take some painkillers, stop eating, you know, a whole lot of other things you could do, but it's painful. It costs us a lot of money. It's darn inconvenient to have digestive problems. Probably the worst. I mean, I see we've got a little school that we run, and sometimes the kids come to school and they've got these terrible tummy aches, and they really are so uncomfortable. They double over in pain. Not all the children's parents follow the principles. We give the parents at our school, they get the very program I'm going to share with you today. That's included in the kids' school fees. They get that included. So it affects people around us. When we're in pain, the people around us are trying to hover or help or try to, you know, they might just get irritated with us. I know in my family, if you got sick, everybody around you got irritated. Nobody wanted to have sick people around us. So you just sucked it up and kept quiet. And so it affects people. They might be, you know, nicer to us. Sometimes people are nicer when we're sick, which encourages us. As one woman said to me, she said, you know, Marianne, I've decided I'm not going to do this anymore, because when I'm in pain, my husband and my son pay me attention. When I'm well, they just ignore me. And so she decided to just go back to everything she was doing before, so that she could get attention from her husband and son. That is not a good thing. We should not be that dependent on people. I don't think we should. That's very sad, actually. And because why should we change? You're sick and tired of being sick and tired. Your health can affect your work. I know with me, it affected my work. There's nothing worse than having a sore stomach, being in pain, having inflammation. It affects your relationships, it affects your whole life negatively. In short, it makes your life difficult. Being sick and being in pain. So when I changed my diet, I changed my life. I spoke to you about this earlier on, but over the last 30 years, many thousands of people have found the same, okay? Regardless of their health issues. These same principles can help you on every level. I'm not just saying this. Somebody said to me, I was at a meeting, and they wanted to know, they'd heard what I did, and they'd said, well, they would never come on my webinar because I'm catering for all health issues. I must be focused on just one thing. So I said, specifically, what one thing would you like me to cover? And he said, I suffer from reflux. I've had this fundiplication, which is, I'll tell you a bit more about the process. And so I would come in where you spoke about digestive problems and reflux issues, but it must just be reflux and nothing else. And then he wanted a separate one that was just on his blood pressure problem. He said, because he would think that I'm being very unprofessional and not very science-based if I said that just doing a couple of things, this is his words, can help everything. Well, I said, clearly you don't understand the body, because if you treat the body with respect, it doesn't matter what your problems are. If you create the right environment in which your body can repair itself, whether it's your stomach or your blood pressure or your menstrual irregularities, it doesn't matter what it is, your body will start to heal and repair. And that's the good news, because if you go on the program I'm going to recommend that you do today, you don't have to do the program, you could just follow the steps and you could get there too. So let's see, if you follow those steps and somebody else in your family does who doesn't have digestive problems, they may find that their stomach, which is already working properly, might actually work even more efficiently, but they'll start to find that they sleep better at night, that their head is clearer, that they've got more energy. And that's just the reality of it. So anybody, anywhere can be healthy anytime. Now, Corin's story is a great testimony, and she just said she decided to follow the program due to some health issue after my sister told me about it. She says she suffered from extreme, and this is fascinating. She suffered from these weird spasms in her entire body all day, every day. Her calves, her feet, her hands, her torso, her neck, and they got progressively, I'm not making this up, okay? This is when I read this, I'm like, this is so weird. Got worse over the years. So bad, I was convinced I had some sort of incurable disease and did not know what to do. As over the years, I've tried many things and nothing was helping. I also suffered from allergies. Now, allergies are very often a side effect, a direct side effect from indigestion, the stomach not digesting food efficiently. And that contributes to leaky gut syndrome, which we'll talk about now. So sinusitis, she had allergies, sinusitis, and she retained a lot of water, which makes sense because the byproducts of your food not digesting properly will make you retain water. She had heartburn. There you go. My body was shouting at me to do something. Now she says, I'm feeling amazing and I've learned so much from the program. Thank you. I love trying the recipes. Whoever thought healthy could be so delicious? I no longer have sinusitis, no more water retention, no heartburn, and the best thing ever, I've not had one spasm in the last 2 weeks. The program is amazing and will be my new way of life. And that's what you'll find. You'll be focusing on your stomach and other things will improve. And that's what's so exciting about this, because then you know you're really helping your body function more efficiently. So I want you to please, if you haven't yet, and if you haven't been able to, either send it to that phone number or list it in the chat, one or more health issue that you've got. And please don't be shy. There's nothing that can shock me, okay? I've heard all kinds of horrific stories and horrific health issues. It doesn't matter. You can put your name as anonymous. If you don't want to share your name, you can pop it up there. So how do you fix the problem? Well, this is the easy part. Firstly, let me tell you that it's very practical. I'm a very practical person. I like to be science-based, but it's got to be practical and doable. It's pointless coming up with information that's way over everybody's heads. They can't understand it and they can't apply it. And then what do people think? You're really smart because you're talking about stuff that nobody else can understand. I remember people doing that to me when I was learning about my body and literally being told not to worry my pretty little face about this. Trust me, I'm a doctor. And it wasn't just doctors, it was other people. It was like just talking at a level with nothing practical. And I kept saying to them, but if this is the case, there's got to be some way I can undo this. You don't just, disease doesn't just drop on you. There's got to be something that caused it. Let's find the cause. No. This is genetic. There's nothing you can do about it. Well, we'll see today. You may be genetically predisposed towards a condition. Maybe there are ulcers or digestive problems in your family, but that doesn't mean they have to manifest. Your genes may set you up for potential problems, but when we interfere with it from a nutritional perspective, it stops those genes expressing the disease. And that's not me making that up. That's one of the top nutritional biochemists in the world, Dr. T. Colin Campbell, who wrote this book, China Study, which is based on over 400 studies over a period of 30 years involving 1 million people. You can actually intervene and stop your disease genes expressing themselves simply by, and it's from his book Whole, which is another book that's, you can, there we go. You can see I've got it over there. You got the disease genes, interfere with it nutritionally, and they don't express themselves. There we go. He's got the whole explanation. I can give you the page number. Fantastic book to read. Whole, my Bible. These two books are my nutrition Bibles, okay? On page 122 and 123, there's the pages that you need to read there. So it's practical, it's doable, it's science-based, it's affordable. You will find you actually save. When I've asked everybody who follows these principles, are you spending more or less? And every single one of them have come back and said, I'm saving in the region of about 30% on my food bill. That's how much. And plus, they're not spending all the money that they were spending on over-the-counter medications, antacid medication, sleeping tablets, painkillers, anti-inflammatories. Anybody can do this. You just need the basic knowledge. You don't need a degree in nutrition. You don't need to be a medical doctor. Anybody can learn how their body works, and that's a big mistake. We do this thing. I mean, I do it, okay? I've always said I can't sing. Because in our family, we were told we can't sing. My father used to love jazz. My mother loved classical music. We had a lot of music in our house. So I have an ear for music. But if I opened my mouth to try and sing, it didn't sound nice. It wasn't in tune. So I would just close my mouth again and not sing anymore. So I grew up believing that in our family, genetically, we can't sing. My husband grew up in a family where both parents sang all the time. All the kids were encouraged to sing. And so they sang. And so he can sing in tune. And I used to say, I can't sing. And then I've met several music teachers over the years, and that's having a closed mindset when we do that. It's like saying, I'm bad at maths. That's it, I'm bad at maths. Closed mindset's a very dangerous thing because it doesn't open you to learn. You don't learn anything. In fact, studies have shown that you learn nothing with a closed mindset. You actually don't allow yourself to learn. Music teachers have said to me, that's nonsense. You can't say you can't sing. Anybody can sing. You just need to keep practicing, and you need to be taught the principles of singing and be taught to sing from your diaphragm and not from your throat. And you've got to keep practicing and keep. I keep my cello behind me here for you to see, okay? Because I always thought I can't play a musical instrument. I can't read music. Well, that's a stupid thing. Anybody can. It's like saying I can't read a book because I don't know how to read. We go to school, we learn to read, we pick up a book, and then we start reading it, and then you start reading more complex books. And people say to me, I can't read I can't read my blood tests. You never tried, did you? Just read it slowly. It actually tells you that's in the higher range, that's in the lower range. They're your blood tests. You better get to find out how they work. I've had people come to me, our doctor says I've got low this, and my B12 is low, or my iron is low, my calcium low, whatever. And I say, where are your blood tests? And they say, have you looked at your blood test? Is it in the top of the range? Is it in the bottom part of the range, in the middle, or is it right out of the range? And they say, I don't know. And I actually tell them, open your blood test and read it. Very often, it's just under the medium level. So if this is a range, it'll be slightly under the middle. But there's a range from here to here for a reason, because people experience health right in that range. You can go from 700 to 15, whatever it is, in some of the tests that are done, like B12. So we've got to actually own our bodies. We really have to. And an open mindset is, I can sing if I want to, and if I put in the effort and I practice it. So I want you to say, right now, I don't have to hear this, but right now say, I can get healthy. All I have to do is understand the basics of how my body works, and then treat my body the way it was designed to be treated. And the result of that will be my health. So you can just say, I can be healthy, and I'm going to do everything I can to get healthy, okay? You just need the knowledge and the tools, and that's what I'm going to give you today, is some basic knowledge and some basic tools. Now, I love this example. I use it all the time in my talks, that cures don't work, okay? For over 30 years of helping others, I found that most people spend an enormous amount of money trying to cure themselves. If you take medicine or if you use surgery, it very seldom takes the problem away. I haven't actually ever found somebody where the problem goes away. I found people where it's less. So the pain, if it was on a level of 100, goes down to maybe 20, but it never goes completely. And the reason that it never cures is there's not one drug or one type of surgery that you can have that doesn't have some side effect. So even though you might be better with the pain level might be down to 20 from 100, you may find you've got stomach ulcer because you've been taking painkillers for so long to cause inflammation in the stomach, and now you've got the stomach ulcer. So the pain in your joints may be less, but now you've got pain in your stomach. And it's one of the things that I'm going to ask you to do. And while you're thinking about it, is to just pop it in there or send a message to Mark to say, what medication are you on? But don't tell me what medication you're on. While you're sitting there, just get your phone out and look up the side effects, because you'll be shocked at how many types of medication can affect your digestive tract. Your digestive problem could be caused from an anti-inflammatory, or from a painkiller, or from an antidepressant, or anti-anxiety, or a sleeping tablet, or the contraceptive pill. Look up the side effects of whatever you're on. Okay, and then you've got to find out what is causing your problem. And very often it's just the way we eat and the way we live. It may not be anything else. We're just internalizing our stress. We're not eating properly. We just eat on the go. You know, we live in the fast lane and we eat fast food and we don't want to think about it. We treat our bodies with less respect than we would treat our lawnmower. You know, people will mow their lawn. They will take it to the local lawnmower center and they'll have it serviced. And then they'll get their cars and they'll have that service. We don't service our bodies. We ignore them. We think, well, it worked when I got into it as a kid and it just worked. So grew up as a kid and I was eating hot dogs and ice cream and nothing really happened. I had my tonsils out at 4, which is what I had, and I was just fine. And then everything was fine until I got into my 30s. And most people can get to 30 without too many health issues. It's getting much younger now that people are getting to this because our diets have changed so incredibly. I mean, it's just, when we were growing up, I hate saying when we were growing up as kids, but it was very different. There was nowhere to eat out. You went and ate out at your grandmother's house. There were no fast food outlets. First time I ate a pizza, I was all of 17 years old and Mark had turned 21. I was 17, 18 years old, and he wanted to eat a pizza. He'd seen it in movies. And so we went and found the first pizza joint that opened in South Africa, in Johannesburg. It was an underground connection between two skyscrapers. And I remember sitting there eating these pizzas with juice running down our arms. So we grew up in an environment where pizzas were very rare. I'm not saying that that's the main cause of any disease, but at the end of the day, it's not the healthiest thing to put into your body. We all know that, especially if you've got digestive problems and or sinus problems like I always had. So we didn't have access to everything. The instant mashed potato hadn't been invented. I don't even think there was instant coffee. My grandmother used to have a pot and she brewed coffee, and she only had a cup on Sundays. And there were no coffee shops. Now, you might think this is weird, but there were no coffee shops. You couldn't just go and have a cup of coffee somewhere. There wasn't anywhere to have it. But now, I mean, I've been in Chicago, for example, and racing down the streets to the Sears Center. We were trying to get there for our appointment at 3 o'clock. And it's a weird story. I was with a dwarf, and I'm not allowed to call her a little person. She knows she's a dwarf, and she says I'm a dwarf, and she says, don't introduce me to other dwarves because they freak me out. She's an amazing woman, amazing woman. And she was in a little chariot, and I was running next to her, and we were late, and eventually she said to me, just hop on the back. And we were going down 16 blocks in Chicago and looking left and right on every single block, and she'd say, there's another coffee shop, there's another coffee shop, there's another Starbucks, there's another Starbucks, another coffee shop. And every single block there would be coffee shops in the middle, both sides, and on all the corners. You would see on all four corners of a block there were coffee shops. And that's pretty much in any westernized country. Things have changed dramatically. And so we're finding people with health problems at much younger ages and weird conditions, autoimmune diseases. Nobody ever heard of an autoimmune disease like lupus or even arthritis. Was virtually unknown. It was only seen in very elderly people. Now we see juvenile arthritis in 18-month-old children. Things have changed a lot, okay? And it's not that complicated. We'll see now. Until you find the cause, finding a cure is a complete waste of time and money, okay? The makers of the cure end up making the money, and you end up being broke, okay? And the world is always focused on cures. You know, it's not something new. Chris Barnard confirmed he was the first person to do successful open heart transplant in 1967. And yet he'd been struggling with arthritis in his hands even at that time. And it wasn't, there's even reports that I've read which say that he didn't actually perform it, he directed it because he couldn't use his hands very efficiently. Now, I don't know how true that is, and I've been to the museum in the hospital, and he was, you know, ahead of his time, but he'd been struggling with his health for years. So the weird thing about it is, this heart transplant that everybody was having, just that one packed up too, because if you didn't change your lifestyle and diet, the arteries would clog up. We know with bypass surgery, for example, you take an artery out of your leg, you bypass the blocked one. That's why it's called a bypass surgery. The artery bypasses the other arteries that are blocked. But if you don't change your lifestyle, that artery you took out of your leg is going to get blocked up too. You can take another artery out of the other leg, and you can keep doing that until you have no more arteries in your legs, and they maybe remove your legs. Who knows? Same with angioplasty. You can actually put a balloon in your arteries and pump it up to open up and doesn't get rid of the plaque. It kind of squishes it up against the walls to open up the arteries. It's incredibly expensive. I've known of people to mortgage their homes to pay for these things. With most of these procedures, within 5 to 8 years, the body's exactly back to where it was before they did the transplant, because nothing changed. The very lifestyle that caused the heart problem is still there. Okay? So in Dr. Barnard, which was very sad, he actually died of an asthma attack. Now, arthritis and asthma are both lifestyle and diet issues. You can get rid of arthritis and asthma by changing your diet. We're not talking about that today, but very much the principles I'm giving you today will contribute towards getting you well in those areas as well. We keep looking at cures. We keep going for operations, medicines, supplements, vaccines, and yet heart disease and cancer and diabetes keep increasing. I know this. I started speaking at the Heart Foundation in 1991. I did my very first public talk specifically to a heart foundation. And I asked them for their latest stats, and they said 1 out of 6 to 7 people in westernized countries would get cancer. Guess what it is today? 1 out of every 2 to 3 people will get cancer. I think it was Richard Nixon more than 50 years ago, started this whole war on cancer, and they were going to annihilate cancer. Well, guess what? Cancer is a very big business today. There's lots of treatments for it. More people get cancer than ever before. 1 out of 6 to 7, 30 odd years ago, 1 out of every 2 to 3 people. That is shocking. It's shocking. It's 1 out of every 2 men, 1 out of every 3 women will get some form of cancer in their lifetime. So these cures we chase after, all they do is make the pharmaceutical companies incredibly wealthy. There are so many movies now on pharmaceutical companies, how much money they make out of these cures and painkillers. It's huge business. If you look on any stock exchange, in any country where they have stock exchanges, you'll find in the top 10 companies making the most money, there will always be 1 or more pharmaceutical companies. We have weird diseases coming out with weird names. Ankylosing spondylitis, it's a form of arthritis in the spine. There are weird diseases out there. Lupus, it's a weird name. Who came up with that weird name? And yet they're just, it's just getting more and more and more. Multiple sclerosis is becoming almost mainstream. It used to be incredibly rare disease. And now so many young people change your diet, your body goes into complete remission, and these things go away. The same thing with the digestive tract. We all know our bodies repair ourselves. We know this, okay? Anybody's ever cut your finger knows firsthand, which is kind of bizarre. If you cut your finger, you might put a Band-Aid on it. You might just lick it. You might wrap tissue around it, tissue paper around it. You might do nothing. You'll just clean it up and kind of off you go. I know what I do is I put a Band-Aid on it just to stop it getting irritated, because I'm always busy using my hands somewhere and then I'll bump them again. So when you cover that and you take it off 3 days later or whenever, you'll just see that it's healed all by itself. You didn't have to keep telling it. You didn't have to phone a doctor to ask them, what do I do? This cut's happened and there's blood oozing out. Because if you chopped your whole finger off, you'd want to stitch it back up. Then you go to the doctor. Doctors are incredible with surgery. My daughter's life was saved because she broke her neck in a car accident, and she's walking and fit and healthy, and she goes to gym and she walks and she's as active as she was before. She wouldn't be here today if it hadn't been for that surgery that was able to be performed. I'm not anti-doctors. I'm pro people learning how their bodies work so they can take responsibility for it. Because it's like worldwide, there's a shortage of doctors. But if all the doctors were focusing on surgery for accidents and cuts and wounds and really serious things, and not on migraines and aches and pains and arthritis, because we took responsibility and learned how our bodies work, we'll see how much money is spent on the digestive tract. It's shocking. It's shocking, shocking, shocking. Okay. So we keep looking elsewhere for cures and we get side effects from them, and our health just deteriorates. It starts, my husband Mark always says, you're either spiraling down or you're spiraling up. Your health is either getting better or it's getting worse. And when you take control of it and learn how your body works, it starts to get better. The reality is, no matter how rich or famous you are, you can't buy your health. Very often the healthiest people are not the rich and famous. It's the rich and famous that have the weird diseases, because they can live a hedonistic lifestyle where they can eat and drink and do anything they want to because they've got the money to do it. It's one of the advantages of not having a lot of money, is that you have to eat more carefully. You can't afford to get sick, because if you're sick, you can't work. So it was what made Mark and I, when we were a young couple, we couldn't go to work. We couldn't look after our kids. We had to find a solution. We didn't have, some trust fund sitting there waiting for us to just dip into it every time we couldn't walk and work, and then just pay somebody else to do our work for us. We had to actually work. We couldn't afford to pay the medical bills. We had to find a way around this. The healthiest communities all have common denominators. We're going to look at some of them. You can apply the same factors that they do, and you will find your overall health improves. We'll take a look at what Debbie did. Debbie had, why has this gone all over the screen like this? How do I make this smaller? I can't see both sides of it. She said she started the 100 Days to Health purely out of interest and moral support. I'll try and remember it. And she says, it's been a difficult road. Most people don't understand my choice, but with the support from my husband, who joined me after only 5 days because what he read made a lot of sense to him. She said she's something about physically ever before. I can't read it properly. She says she has no more candida infections, which is a big problem with people in the digestive tract. Okay, no more candida infections. Her PMS, her premenstrual syndrome, has disappeared and is almost gone. Strong nails, sleeping through the night. And there are exactly what I was saying is very often if you've got a digestive problem, if it's not just the digestive tract, she had all these other things. She's so excited about the healthy lifestyle and what it's done for me. And thank you for the products and things. Okay, so health, as I said earlier on, it's a mindset. It's got to be a growth mindset. A growth mindset is one that says you choose to live healthy. From when you open your eyes, you don't wake up in the morning thinking, oh, I feel like a bar of chocolate and I can't eat it. I want to have a donut and I can't eat it. A health mindset is, I don't want to put crap in my body, excuse my French, but you actually decide, I don't want to put anything into my body that shouldn't be there. It's just a decision you make. People always say to me, you're so disciplined. I don't think it's got anything to do with discipline. I don't want those problems that I had. I don't want to go back to Egypt, okay? You know the story of the Israelites coming out of Egypt? It's like, I don't want to go back there. I don't want to live in a place where I'm in pain all the time and backwards and forwards to the doctor, spending money that I don't have and stressing about my health and my kids' health. I don't want that. We haven't had a medical bill for close on 40 years now. I don't want to have medical bills. I drive carefully and try to avoid being in car accidents as well. Not out of fear. I just don't want to be inconvenienced by having to claim on the insurance, never mind anything else, the whole insurance thing and not having a car for a while, but never mind having the pain of me driving recklessly and now I've got a broken leg. That is darn inconvenient. It really is. So it's a mindset. It's the growth mindset that says, I can be healthy. I want to be healthy. I'm going to make healthy choices. You stop looking for excuses to not be healthy. Oh, it's my genes. No, it's not your genes. I've got all the genes for bad health. So does Mark. Mark's family has high blood pressure. When he went to get insured, when he had to do his military training, they said to him, look, you filled in the form here. Your blood pressure at the age of 19 is sky high. You're not even overweight. Both your parents, both sets of grandparents, according to what you filled in here, are on medication for blood pressure. Okay. You've got no chance. We're not insuring you. Now, things have changed today and the insurance companies have to insure you, so it's changed. But in those days, they could turn you down. He was turned down for insurance. So he had no insurance. So he was like, it's genetic. There's nothing you can do about it. And the more I read, the more I studied, I said to Mark, this is not genetic. There's something you can do about it. I had allergies. In our family, everybody has allergies. My mother, my father, asthma, emphysema, anything to do with the lungs and allergies, everybody in our family, just the thought of it makes me want to start sneezing, makes my nose itch. I don't have those problems. He's bipolar, which is genetic in our family. I chose to interfere with those genes, to interfere from a nutritional and lifestyle point of view, and those disease genes that I have and Mark had are no longer expressed. You know, the weird thing is our kids don't eat as well as we do. They eat well, but not nearly as well as we do, because we have to be more careful, because I don't have tonsils and Mark's got a history, and our kids have never been sick. If they get a sore head, they know exactly what to do. They just stop eating, they fast, or they get flu symptoms, they stop eating, they go to bed. They know exactly what to do. They go back onto a really strict healthy diet, and then they know that they can eat 80% well all of the time. They've never had the health issues we had. So in one generation, it's changed. They do not have the high blood pressure. They do not have the allergies. They do not have any of this. They don't have it. When you have a growth mindset, you're continually looking for ways to be healthy. You actually want it, and you see it as fun. You don't see it as boring. And I mean, look at the food in the background here. Mangoes and beautiful blueberries and just like incredible foods out there. Are those persimmons? They look like they could be tomatoes, but oh my word, I love persimmons. These are foods I've discovered. I didn't know there was such a thing as a persimmon. I had no idea. I didn't know you could take a carob pot off a tree and eat it. In Australia now, they chop it up and they call them carob kibbles, and they're delicious. You discover such incredibly exciting food that you didn't even know existed. And I grew up in a family where we were quite sophisticated in our tastes. We were the only kids that I ever knew growing up that ate asparagus, because my father grew up eating asparagus. I knew what a roll mop was, or pickled. It's a pickled herring that was rolled up. I mean, my father used to eat these really weird, extravagant things. We ate olives. Very few kids grow. Now today, a lot of people eat this stuff. It's far more common. But
It's very exciting getting onto a healthy journey. It's a lot of fun, okay? You also choose to live in a healthy place with healthy people. Mark and I chose not to live in the middle of a city with people with a lot of pollution. We choose to live on the outskirts of a city on a small holding and grow our own food. We didn't have that from the beginning. We had to live in the city starting up, but we still tried to find places that were cleaner and healthier. It was a choice we made. We choose to do healthy things, like we go for walks, we exercise, we dig our own holes, we push our own wheelbarrows. We used to go to gym in the early days, but we find it far more satisfying to dig a hole and plant something and then harvest it as our exercise. And we love walking. We're planning to walk the Camino as soon as we had everything in place, which means we were able to actually leave our business for a month and go and walk in Spain for a month, doing 800 kilometers. And from there, we would like to talk to all of you. So you'll know that everything's sorted out. And one of the things I had to know, my mom was very elderly, and I knew that she would have to pass on before I could go. And she passed on 4 months ago at the age of 90 on no medication. And she only changed her diet when she was in her 60s, when she stopped smoking. So it doesn't matter how old you are, how bad you've been doing things. My mom was a party animal, so she got pancreatitis, had to stop drinking at 60. Then just after that, she stopped with the smoking, and her health just improved. And when she passed away, she was 90. She was the oldest age. She came from a family of 8 kids, and she died at the oldest age. And she was the one that partied the hardest and smoked the most. And she changed at 60. She was going downhill fast. She wouldn't have lasted. If she'd gone on like she would have died pretty soon up before she hit 65. My father passed away from that lifestyle at 57. So you're making healthy choices and you're doing healthy things. That's it. It's a growth mindset. It's a choice you make. If you're sitting there thinking, it's not possible, it's not possible, my family and your arms are folded. No, that is a closed mindset. And you're not going to get well, I'll tell you now. Growth mindset's a choice. I wasn't born naturally with a growth mindset. I would also make excuses, like I can't sing. And now I've decided I can. So watch the space. I'm going to go for singing lessons. At the tender age of 65, maybe not right now. After we've done the Camino, I'll start the singing lessons. I've always avoided, I've said, I can't do it. I'm going to go and learn how to sing. And who knows? Same with the cello at the back. I started playing the cello. And when I started playing it at first, my kids were like, Mom, that's disgusting. Go somewhere else. And then I learned to actually hear the notes properly and hold the bow properly and get the right sound out of it. And I was playing really well and had a fire, and all my music notes played, and I got burnt up, and they were handwritten by my music teacher. And I practice occasionally, but I still don't have my music. And I know that I need to just get my music notes together and I can start playing again, because I've played it before. I know I can do it again. And that's what happens sometimes with our health. Sometimes what happens with our health is that we get healthy and something happens. We get the divorce, somebody died, we move countries, we move houses, and we go back to our old way. We just default into what everybody else is doing. If you're here today and you've been on these principles and it's worked for you, I want to encourage you. Don't say, well, I've gone back too far. There's no such thing. You can get right back on track and be back where you need to. You may need some support. You may find that coming to the local weekly Zoom sessions and having a game changer you can chat to on WhatsApp in a group on a daily basis, all of that helps to support you when you go through these changes. You'll see, we talk about it later on, 84% of people that get onto a healthy diet stop because they don't have a support system. So support is really important, okay? So what's the problem, okay? The digestive tract's the gateway to receiving all the nutrients needed for health. Does it make sense to treat the symptoms and not look at the cause? You've got all this stuff going on in your stomach, and you start treating the symptoms, painkillers, anti-inflammatories, antacids. You'll take a look at some of the things they do. It's actually quite ridiculous. The real problem, as I said, is we don't know how our body works, okay? So how can you find the natural way to do that? It's pretty simple. You start with learning how your gut works and all the parts from the start to the finish. Then you look at the healthiest, longest living people and copy what they do. Now, if you don't know where those people are, National Geographic sent a man called Dan Buettner out several years ago, and he went out looking for the healthiest, longest living communities in the world. And they called them the blue zones because he took a pen and he marked them on the map. And you can actually watch, if you go onto Netflix, but you can actually go onto YouTube if you don't have Netflix. You can go onto Netflix and watch a series, or you can go straight to YouTube and watch the 19-minute one. It's the nicest one. There's lots of several others little YouTube. It's the TED Talk one. It's 19 minutes long. It's just short and simple. And you think, oh my word. And you know what these people are doing? Is exactly what I'm going to tell you today. They're putting God-made foods into a God-made body, and it results in God-made health. It's that simple. If you don't believe in God, say they put natural foods into a natural body, resulting in natural health. I happen to believe in God, and more I study the human body and the complexity of it, and I see that this could not have happened by mistake. It's too well designed. It's a bit like saying a Ferrari just morphed and evolved from a rock. And you go and walk in the desert, and there's a Ferrari. The keys are in, you get in, you drive away. So to me, it's that ridiculous. It's just this body is too well designed. When we take a look at how it works, there's no way this is. It's like a mousetrap. You know, if you put all the known parts of a mousetrap together and you shook it up in a box, it wouldn't make a mousetrap. It has to actually be put together by a maker of some description. Otherwise, it doesn't work. So it's simple, okay? These are the blue zones. You can have a look at them. You can get Loma Linda in Southern California, Nicoya in Costa Rica, Sardinia in Italy, Ikaria in Greece, and Okinawa in Japan. Those are the oldest, healthiest people in the world. Many of them, they say they're the healthiest centenarians. In fact, the healthiest people over the age of 100 or 100 and over. And what do? They move naturally. They don't go to gym. None of them go to gym. They just do natural movement. They walk from town to town, or they go for hikes. And Loma Linda, they go for hikes up the mountain. They might ride a bicycle, but they don't go and push weights. They dig. They all grow their own food. That's one of the things, okay? They belong to the right tribe. They have a community of healthy people that have the same mindset. You'll find, for example, in Sardinia in Italy is an island, and Okinawa in Japan is an island. So it's more isolated in a sense from the mainland. So those people live there in that community doing what they do. They have the right approach. They have a growth mindset, and they eat wisely. Interesting. Bottom line is health is available for anyone, everywhere, regardless of the country you live in, the race, the color, the creed. It's affordable and it's easy. So stop making excuses saying, I come from the wrong background. Our culture doesn't do this. My culture didn't do it. My parents were party animals. They were real colonialists. A drink in the hand and a cigarette in the other one. It's affordable for anybody. It costs less to be healthy, and it's easy for anyone. And you'll see from the testimonies, people say this is so easy. Here's the issue. Between your ears, this is what has to decide that you want to be healthy badly enough. You decide today, I want to be healthy badly enough. I'll do anything to get healthy. With that mindset, you'll get healthy. It's your body, get to know it, learn how it works, love it, and be a good steward of it. You didn't make your own body, look after it. It's like getting a car and just doing anything to it. Never get it serviced, never get it fixed, never clean it. Eventually it just packs up. And then you say, oh, what have I done to deserve this? I've heard people say, what have I done to deserve this problem with my body? It's like saying, what have I done to deserve my car packed up? You didn't look after it. If you want to know a really nice physiology book, I've popped it in here, Essentials of Human Anatomy and Physiology, global edition by a woman called Elaine Marieb. It's just such an easy book to read on physiology. You can actually read it with nice charts, nice pictures. Don't get a physiology book that's just got writing in it. You might feel more intellectual being there, but honestly, if you really want to learn about your body, you need decent pictures, okay? They're photographs. It's an amazing book. Get it. Find one that's got pictures, anyone that you're comfortable reading, okay? How do you fix your health issues? We know medication and surgery alleviates symptoms but doesn't cure. And they all have side effects. We've been this before. Write down the meds you're on, whether it's aspirin, laxatives, antacids, antibiotics, Tylenol, paracetamol, contraceptive pill, blood thinners. It doesn't matter what it is. Write it down and tell me what the side effects are. Pop them in the chat box, okay? And then speak to your doctor as soon as you can and say, please help me. I need your help to come off this medication. I'm doing my part. I'm getting healthy. I'm exercising. I'm eating better. I want you to monitor my blood pressure. I want you to monitor my blood sugar. Please help me reduce the medication. If your doctor says, don't be stupid, why do you want to put all that effort into it? Run a mile. There are many doctors out there. Many. Some of them call themselves integrated doctors. They've actually studied different ways, and they might help you with homeopathy. But find yourself a doctor. It doesn't have to be an integrated doctor. There are smart doctors out there, many, and I know many of them. They are out there, and they're only too pleased to help you come off the medication because they're doctors for a real reason. They want to help you get well. They're not in it for the money. Okay. So your body is able to repair itself. And I'm showing you this because even if this is in your digestive tract, this is on the skin, okay? It's an injury on the skin, but the same thing happens if it was in your digestive tract. So if you have an ulcer in the stomach, so what happens is you get inflammation, and when the inflammation is not sorted out and we don't treat our stomach with respect, then it becomes ulceration. And now you start to get a wound, and it can get bigger, and you can get a bleeding ulcer, which you could die from, okay? So this is what happens when we let our body repair itself. It does this on its own. You don't have to have something stuck in your stomach. You don't have to put medicines in. You don't have to cut something out. It just works. You get what's called homeostasis, hemostasis, which is to do with the blood. Blood comes to we might be bleeding, and then you get the inflammation. Inflammation is part of the healing process. But if there's chronic inflammation going on day in and day out, then you're not going to see. That's when you get a disease. That's when you get pain. Inflammation is supposed to be for a short while the body repairs itself, and then it goes away. So proliferation means the cells start multiplying, and then the body basically remodels the wound. And you might have a bit of a scar there, but that's about it. This is basically just one cell in your body, and you've got 37 trillion cells. It's got structures inside for doing making 100,000 different types of protein, for example. So this is inside one cell. You can't even see this. So you tell me there's no God when there's this, excuse me, in each cell in the 37 trillion? I mean, who would have known all of this stuff was in here if somebody hadn't invented a microscope, okay? Your cytoplasm and the mitochondria and the nucleus and the ribosomes and the endoplasmic reticulum and centrioles and the Golgi apparatus. Where is the Golgi apparatus? The Golgi body there. It's just the most amazing thing inside. So you've got the rough endoplasmic reticulum, and you've got your smooth endoplasmic reticulum. It's the most amazing thing to look at. You can't say there's no God. This could not happen just by exploding. Something exploded and made a cell. I can't believe it. It's too complicated and too complex. So you can either hinder or help the healing process. It's your choice. You can either just keep treating the symptom, and it's just going to carry on and get worse and morph into something else because of the side effects. Or you can decide you want to know how your body works, and you're looking for the cause and help your body, okay? Choice is yours. You can do the old way, the old thing you've always done. But as Einstein said, insanity is when you keep doing the same thing expecting a different result. That's what happens. We keep taking this pill and another pill and another one and a painkiller, and we think it's going to go away. It's not. It's not going to go away. It's going to get worse. You can live in control, or you can live in fear. You can control your body and the way it works, or you can live in fear, like I used to, thinking I'm going to get cancer. Every time I saw somebody with cancer, I thought it was going to jump onto me. It was terrible. I lived in total fear. So there were nights I could wake, not go to sleep with my mind just going round and round and round, like I'm going to get cancer, I'm going to get cancer, I'm going to get cancer. I was a teenager when that nonsense started. You can save time or money, or you can waste time or money. You can live your life to the full or die prematurely. If you don't deal with the cause and you keep treating the symptoms, you'll never get well and stay well. You won't. You might be well for a period, and then something else happens, and then something else, and something else. And it might make you feel important. It's such a waste of a good life to live like that. You want to live the abundant life where you can actually make a difference in other people's lives. So digestive tract cancers in the top 2 to 3, okay? We've got breast cancer, 2.26 million, lung cancer, 2.21, and then we've got colorectal cancer, or colon and rectal cancer, 1.93 million cases. This is worldwide, by the way, and this is annually. Every year, there are 1.93 million cases. Well, basically, this was in 2020, okay? The most common causes of death in 2020 were lung cancer, 1.8 million, colorectal cancer, 916,000 people deaths, and stomach cancer just after liver cancer. Liver cancer could be also because of the digestive tract, and then stomach cancer. So although breast cancer is the most common, it's only the 5th most common death from cancer. But you see that this moves up to slot number 1, 2, and 3. No, number 2, 3, and 4, basically. Digestive tract cancer, okay? With those stats is clear, we're not looking after our digestive tracts. We do not look after our bodies, okay? I'm going to give you 5 basic steps. Some of you know these steps, but I'm going to tell you again and again and again because they form the foundation of wellness. And then we're going to look, as we get to one of the steps and it relates specifically to the digestive tract, we're going to look at how the digestive tract works, okay? You need to make sure that you have enough fruit and vegetables, raw fruit and vegetables, which contain all the antioxidants, the phytonutrients, all the nutrients we need for health, okay? Not in a tablet, but in your food, okay? Best source of nutrients are from your food, and the best source of nutrients in your food is from plant foods, particularly when it's raw. You need to start all your cooked meals with raw fruit and vegetables. It makes an alkaline forming in your bloodstream, which means that your immune system is going to work properly. Healing is sped up because you're getting all your nutrients. You find your digestive tract works more efficiently. This one thing, starting your cooked meals with raw vegetables, people have told me their stomach starts to work better within 24 hours just doing this one thing. They have more energy within 7 days doing this one thing. Just this one thing. That's all. It's very simple. That could be a mixed salad if you want, or it could be simple. You could just eat the lettuce. I would put some olive oil and herb salt on it. You could just eat a cucumber. You could just eat tomatoes. You don't have to be a salad fondue. You don't have to know recipes. You can just pick an avocado up, cut it open, and eat it with a spoon. Put some salt and pepper if you want to, or eat it like it is. I got my baby great-granddaughter here for sleepover. It's the first time she's had a sleepover in her life. She's nearly 9 months old. In fact, she's 9 months old yesterday. That's right. She was born on the 27th of January. She's 9 months old, first sleepover. And she's having avocado for supper. I got the mommy's milk all frozen and ready to go into her bottle. But she eats nicely now. It's so amazing. You could keep it simple, like my baby great-granddaughter. I said great-granddaughter, she is. Avocado doesn't have to be. You could have a carrot juice. You could eat the carrot. Keep it simple. Don't complicate things. Building block 2, one entire fruit meal a day. The best one for me is breakfast, because if I have it for breakfast, I don't crave sweet things all day long. If I have it later on, I'm looking for sweet things all day long. I am a sugar addict, a recovered one. And I find if I have my fruit in the morning, I can have it in a smoothie with nuts and seeds in it, or I simply just eat the fruit. So some mornings I'll have a smoothie like that, and I have raw, fresh, or frozen fruit. I love pineapple in it. I love strawberries in it. I love dragon fruit. You can put anything you want to. Blueberries. This one next to it has got kiwi fruit in it. Then I put a bit of pea protein in it, and I use the one with vanilla called Pro Please, and I use fresh apple juice. Keep it easy, keep it affordable, keep it simple. If you don't want to make a smoothie, just eat the fruit straight off the tree. These look like the peaches on my tree. It looks like I'm getting a bumper crop from the peach trees this year. I hope nothing bites it. Okay. And then you can just have a fruit salad if you want to be fancy, or just eat the peaches. You can just, when was it? Yesterday morning. I didn't feel like anything other than 2 apples. I wasn't hungry. And at about 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock, I had 2 Fuji apples. That's all I felt like. But this morning I had blueberries with strawberries straight out of the garden, and I had a smoothie that I made with apple juice and pro peas and stuff. And then I took a bit of tahini, sesame seed paste, and a bit of raw honey, and I drizzled it over. I had a feast. I thought, I'm not going to have a meal later on in today, so I won't eat for the rest of the day. But I had that earlier on, and it was absolutely delicious. So you decide how complicated you want this to be. Building block 3, all snacks, fresh or dried fruit or vegetables. So you can eat raw asparagus if you want. You can have some plums. You can have some tomatoes. You can have some apples. You eat something fresh as your snack. Ideally not cooked. Should be raw. So have an apple, have a banana, now have some dried fruit. I love dates, okay? I absolutely adore dates. But they're going to be cold, so I keep them in the fridge. And then I take a couple out. At the end of the evening, I might have 1 or 2 dates. Some nights I don't feel like that at all. But I may have some dates when I get off. I won't have a meal, but I may have a couple of dates and just enjoy it. Sometimes I have raisins. Oh my word, we've just got the most amazing raisins, and we've got an absolute ton, and I mean a real ton, from this farmer up north, and he does our famous non-old raisins. We haven't been able to get the original ones for many years now. They're the big, long grapes. So you get a long raisin. They're about nearly an inch long. and they don't have any oil on them. They put the oil on to stop bugs biting them and them sticking together, which is stupid because it's processed, nasty oil, carcinogenic oil, and who wants that on your raisins? So we get them unoiled, but we can only take a ton at a time. And that's how we ended up starting our food store, was because we could only take a ton of these raisins at a time. They are magnificent. I don't eat raisins unless they are those raisins. And it's like I haven't eaten raisins for years. And now these are in, and I could not stop eating them this morning. Every time I went past the box, I was taking another handful. Oh my word, yeah, there we go. Okay. Right, here's another testimony from Inga. She says, thank you for your email newsletters. You're an inspiration and a blessing. I've joined your 100 Days to Health program, and I'm on day 7. And this is what I want to tell you. She's on day 7. And she's telling you some information. She lives in the Netherlands. She's 60 years old. She was a sugar addict. I love sweets, Belgian or Swiss chocolate, Dutch licorice, homemade cakes. That's very much a Dutch thing, this sugar addiction. And I know because I've got Dutch ancestry. And my grandmother was always making sweet stuff. And my father was always, if he wasn't drinking, he was eating sweets. So every time he stopped drinking, he would have pockets full of sweets, which I really hung around him a lot. So I understand the sugar addiction. And when you go, I've never been to Holland as such, but I've been to Schiphol Airport, and I got out there and they have a smoking booth, the big smokers. They're selling alcohol and cigarettes and sweets and candy everywhere in that airport. I have never seen an airport like that, so full of alcohol, cigarettes, and candy. I'm looking at them and thinking, this is where my family comes from. This is what my grandmother used to do, was make all kinds of sweets and candy. This is what my father did, was smoke and drink. I'm like, oh my word, I'm understanding it. So I get it. She says, I don't exercise enough, sleep badly, postnatal drip, and always have bowel problems. And what happened after 7 days? Postnasal drip has disappeared. I exercise more, sleep well now. My digestion is improving daily. That's 7 days. This is not long. You go and go on medication is not even going to help you that quickly. Seriously. Big results, she says, from small changes. So this is not a big change. The program that I recommend you go onto is basically using these steps. And you can, as I said, you can go home and do them, take our book, read it at home, and follow this. But if you want to, you can join a program with daily support and weekly support from me. Okay, thank you, she says, Inga. Building up, number 4. Animal protein should never be bigger than the size of the palm of your hand. And the reason for that is Dr. Colin Campbell, who's Professor Emeritus, the top nutritional biochemist in the world, in his book, The China Study, explains very clearly that if you're trying to avoid getting cancer, you can load the gun with preservatives, additives, pollution, bad attitude, all the, stress, anger. You can do all of that. Load that gun with the thing that pulls the trigger. And they've seen it in animal studies. The thing that pulls the trigger is if your animal, you have more than 5 to 10% of your calorie value is from animal protein. So more than 5 to 10%, it's very little. So if you're eating 2,000 calories a day, that means 5% of that, well, 10% will be 200, so it'll be 100 calories a day from animal products. It's very little. It's like half an egg a day. So what I recommend is that you don't eat more than the size of the palm of your hand. That would be a piece of chicken or a piece of fish or an egg, not more than 3 times a week. That's the amount of animal protein you should have. We also know that animal protein hasn't got any fiber in it, and it contains very, very high in something called arachidonic acid, which is a fatty acid which we can make if we need it. That fatty acid in animal product causes blood clots. It causes your blood pressure to go up, but it also causes inflammation. So sometimes we need our blood to clot, and then we take natural omega-6s from plants like an avocado or nuts or seeds, and our body will turn it into arachidonic acid only when we need it. But if you're eating animal products for breakfast, lunch, and supper, we might have milk in our cereal for breakfast. You're going to have milk in our coffee, and you're getting arachidonic acid. You could be having a tuna salad or an egg sandwich or a salad with boiled egg in it for lunch, and you think you're eating really healthy, and for dinner you might be having a piece of fish. That's way too much protein. You can't eat animal protein more than 3 times a week, not 3 times a day, if you're trying to avoid cancer. And it's part of the problem. People have got wealthier. We all think everybody's struggling more, but when we were growing up as kids, we had 1 car and 1 bathroom with 1 toilet in it. Today, people have several cars and they have several bathrooms. Very few people today have less than 2 bathrooms. And most people and most families today have 2 cars. We are far more better off financially than we were We didn't have the money to eat the amount of protein. And as I say, the world was very different. Animal protein wasn't seen so much as the focus. It's become big business. There's hamburgers and hot dogs, and we didn't have that kind of stuff. That stuff was we were hand making those things. You would make your own burger patties. That's what it was like in the olden days. So we're eating way too much, okay? Animal products also includes dairy products, the number one cause of breast and prostate cancer, tonsillitis, sinusitis, and other itises, inflammation, okay? So inflammation, heavy menstrual period. You might have digestive problems and heavy menstrual period. In fact, very often they two go together. You have terrible painful periods and your stomach is a mess. You have this constipation building up, and then your period starts, and then you have diarrhea and you're cramping in your stomach. It's a terrible thing. You can sort that out if you reduce your animal protein to not more than the size of the palm of your hand, which is that space over there, okay? The palm, not your fingers, just the palm, not more than 3 times a day, 3 times a week. And if you're going to eat animal products, you need to make sure that it's organically produced, because you're getting at least 11 different hormones that are given to livestock today to make them grow fast. Listen, we're living in a world where everybody's really focused on money. I mean, everybody is focused. Just go on the internet and see all people like telling you, how can you make millions? You can make millions. You can make millions. Everybody. I've never seen so many people focus on money in my life, okay? So if you can get a chicken or a cow or a sheep to grow super fast, 3 times faster by giving it hormones and antibiotics, well, you're going to do it because you're in business. Business is business, as they say. And so all those hormones come into our bodies and interfere with us. But animal products don't contain any fiber. So when we eat them on a regular basis, you may find your constipation is not coming right until you remove all animal products. Some people, like myself, I don't tolerate animal products well at all. So I don't eat them anymore. I used to eat them a lot. Goodness sake, my grandfather was a sheep farmer. Mark and I used to eat enormous amounts of meat and chicken and fish, and we thought it was really, really good for us. And when we stopped, Mark's blood pressure came down dramatically. That was the thing that changed his blood pressure. And my menstrual periods, which was 7 days long and incredibly painful, bleeding all over the place, went down to 2 days. Also, all the body odor went. So for us, we're not comfortable. Our bodies are not comfortable with it. Every now and again, I smell a barbecue and a lamb chop, and I think I used to like that smell. It kind of smells quite nice, but it's really a lot to do with the spices and herbs, okay? Here says, thank you so much for the health program and your advice. I had lower back surgery 2 years ago, which included a huge anesthetic, lots of painkillers and sedatives. And as a result, which usually happens when you had this, my digestive system went haywire. I rumbled and grumbled and felt tired and unhealthy and sore and bloated until you suggested I join the program. Within the first week, my digestion settled down and I began to feel so much better. 1 week. It's kind of the 7-day theme is going through. The eating plan is brilliant, as I no longer have to force myself to eat the red meat a dietitian advised for B12, and I'm truly grateful for feeling so good. And here's the wonderful thing about the program I'm going to encourage you, is that it's not about taking stuff away. You're going to focus on adding stuff. And here we come to probably the most important step, the building block or principle number 5, and one of the most important when it comes to digestive health. They're all important, but this is probably this is where Mark and I started. We started with this particular step. This is where we started. Keep your meals simple by eating only 1 concentrated food per meal. What are your concentrated foods? If we look here at our grains, we've got grains and bread and potatoes. Those are the grains. It's a concentrated food. And the other one is the animal products down here. All of this is animal products, okay? So unconcentrated, not concentrated. When we say not concentrated, they're concentrated in vitamins and minerals, but they're not what we call macronutrients. Here we've got carbohydrates, here we've got proteins. It's a macronutrient. It's a major nutrient we need to be able to function efficiently, okay? So concentrated foods are complex carbohydrates like potato, rice, corn, bread, pasta, and then the concentrated stuff, your fish, your chicken, your meats, and eggs and nuts and seeds even fit into that, okay? So let's take a look. Digestion starts in your mouth, okay? Starts in your mouth. This is where it starts. We kind of forget that, and I know I've been very guilty of this, okay? You just, and I think it came about a couple of things. I went to boarding school for 4 years growing up, from the age of 11, 12, 13, 14, 4 years. At 15, I went back to day school. And when you're at boarding school, your mom's not near you don't have the refrigerator you can go to, and you sit at a table with 8 other kids. We sat 8 kids. There was 3 down each side, 1 on the head. And the food would get put on the middle of the table, and that was it. When the food was finished, it was finished. There was enough for you to eat. So the kids that ate the fastest are the ones that got the most food. And I don't know what it was at boarding school, but you always felt like you were starving, okay? Always felt. I think it had a lot to do with the fact that we didn't have the nurturing of parents near us. We had teachers looking after us, and some of them were nice and some of them weren't that nice, but you're just a bunch of kids. And you're all kind of being, it's like a whole bunch of sheep, you're just following each other, wearing the same uniforms, doing the same things. And you have to, all the lights all go out at a certain time, and you're not allowed to talk. And that was the food. That's what you ate. So if you ate fast, you got more food. I think that's where it started. And then it wasn't helped when I had babies, because you have a baby, and without doubt, they would wake up when you were sitting down to eat a meal. So I would sit down and eat as fast as possible, because I was already trained to eat fast, having gone to boarding school. And then I would eat really fast so that I would be able to, pay attention to the baby and feed them. And I was breastfeeding. You can't breastfeed and be eating. I have done that, but it's not very easy and comfortable and convenient. You can imagine what it's like when that falls onto the baby. So not ideal, okay? So it's very important for us to realize that the first part of digestion starts with your teeth. You have to chew your food. Now, people don't know how much to chew because we're living in the sped up world. And so the guideline is chew each mouthful for 15 times. You try doing it. I mean, I can't hear you. You can put something into your mouth now and chew it for 15 times. Okay, chew 15 times, and let's see how you do. It's probably half, or it's twice as fast, or twice as many chews as you normally would at a normal pace. People that eat very fast can gulp their food down in 1 or 2 or 3 mouth chews. That's it. Average would be about 7. 15 means it turns it into sludge in your mouth, which is where it should be. Now, here's another important thing. While you're chewing, you're secreting an enzyme called, it's a salivary amylase. It's got a name called Tylin, starting with a P, P-T-Y-L-I-N. And it's the enzyme that's secreted to digest. It's called a salivary amylase. You've got some more in your small intestine, but it has a different name. So it's a family of digestive enzymes, and they're designed specifically to break down carbohydrates. I like to use my beads. It's a string of pearls over here. I love using this as an example. Okay, it's a little pocket and take it out. Just some freshwater pearls here. Somebody gave these to me as a gift. Carbohydrates, think of them, all nutrients really, your macronutrients come in carbohydrates or proteins. They come in a long chain. They're not the simple. They can have branches coming off with carbohydrate molecules on it. And the process of digestion is to break this down into smaller pieces, into individual little pearls. So we can have, because we can't absorb our food properly if it's not broken down into amino acids with protein or into glucose molecules with carbohydrates. So we go from what we call a polysaccharide, which really just means poly is many, saccharide is a sugar. So it's a it's many molecules of glucose all linked together. Digestion is supposed to break this apart. You do not have teeth in your stomach or in your duodenum or in your intestines. You've got to chew your food really well, okay? Very important, number one. You want to sort out your digestive problems, start chewing your food properly so you can get the enzyme mixing with the carbohydrates. If there are no carbohydrates there, it's not going to affect anything else at this point in time. It just gets neutralized in your stomach if you've got a protein in your stomach. So let me look at it now. Digestion continues in your stomach, and then your duodenum, and the intestines, and then lastly the rectum. So here we've got the mouth. You can see I've got the mouth of the oral cavity. We're going to chew our teeth really well. It's going to go down this long tube here called the esophagus. We even teach the kids at our little school from grade R, grade RR, the 3 and 4-year-olds. They know the food goes in your mouth, goes down your esophagus, into your stomach from there, and they do all the actions because we teach them from when they're little how their bodies work so that they respect it better, hopefully. Goes down into your stomach, okay? So now you've mixed an enzyme in your mouth, gone down here into the stomach. When it hits the stomach, your stomach is so smart. This is how smart your body is, okay? It like scans. It doesn't actually scan, but it checks out like what is in the stomach here. If there's no concentrated proteins, it doesn't secrete anything in there. It just allows the enzyme that came in your mouth to keep digesting it in your stomach. So if, for example, you ate a slice of bread or potatoes or some potato chips or fries, your body would secreted the start digesting enzyme in the mouth, and now it goes down into your stomach, it carries on digesting there. This is where the problem comes in. It's when we don't actually know, because we don't know how our bodies work. And this was Dr. William Howard Hay. He said that from his studies, he'd found that carbohydrates needed to digest in an alkaline environment, and proteins in an acid environment. Now, they didn't have all the scientific equipment available. So a lot of people called him a maverick or a quack, because he advocated people needed to do this. And people did it, and it just sorted out their digestive problems really quickly. Now we know that it's a less acid environment. We know that the pH, carbohydrates need to digest at a pH of 4 and above. I'm going to get you. Let's just get to the next one. We can come back to that. So if we look at the pH scale over here, okay, 7 is neutral here in the middle, and this side from 0 to 7 is increasingly acidic. So if you go left on that scale, it goes from 7, and as it drops below 7, it's now acidic environment. So when we get to 4, carbohydrates don't digest below that level. We keep going down there, and we get to number 3. We know that proteins digest best at a pH between 3 and 0. That's where proteins digest best. Carbohydrates digest from a pH of 4 all the way up to about 8 or 9. So it can digest in a more alkaline environment, but it still can digest on the left side. So it can be in an acidic environment, but not the same as protein digestion, and that's the issue. So let me just go back there a second. We're eating our food. So let's say we're having a hamburger. We're eating a bread roll. We digest the enzymes that can help us start the process of carbohydrate digestion. It goes down the esophagus. Oops. Don't click there in, just move. It goes down, and we chewed up the bread and the tomato and the lettuce. The tomatoes and lettuce are neutral foods. They just digest equally wherever they are. They just need good chewing. The hamburger patty goes down. The bread roll goes down. And the stomach says, boom. We've got concentrated protein here. So what happens is your parietal cells, which are actually part of the hormonal system, believe it or not, they secrete hydrochloric acid to activate an enzyme called pepsin. And pepsin, also known as pepsinogen, is the full word for it. It actually starts breaking proteins down though, okay? So let's say these are the carbohydrates, and I've got another one for, here's a nice one. Let's say this is the protein one. It's more complex, okay? Got all these little molecules on here. We can't use proteins in this form at all. So if you eat, for example, a pig or a cow or a chicken or a fish, you're eating that protein. We're not pigs and cows and sheep and fish and anything else. We're human beings, okay? So our body needs to break all these amino acids, which are the building blocks of protein. They're like the letters of the alphabet. The body's going to break this apart completely. That's what digestion does. That's why we have a digestive tract. Breaks it apart, and then you absorb it in that amino acid form, and then your body relinks it into over 100,000 different types of human protein. So when somebody says to me, where do you get your protein from? The first question is, which one of the 100,000 proteins, more than 100,000 proteins, are you talking about? I'm not a pig, I'm not a cow, I'm not a sheep. I can't use it. I've got to break it apart. Protein, for example, if you ate an apple, it contains amino acids. It's already broken down into individual. I need something that's a nice individual. There we go. So you've got the individuals. If you break it down, so that would be an individual amino acid, that little bead over there, okay? Protein in fruit and vegetables, and there's proteins in all fruit and vegetables, okay? It's tiny amounts, but it's anything from, if we take it out of nuts and seeds, it can go from 1% to 30% in pumpkin seeds, for example, which is more than you'll get in chicken, fish, and meat, because you can eat it uncooked, and then it's easier to digest. But the protein in there is already broken apart. You don't require these enzymes to actually break it down, because the amino acids haven't gone through an animal. And the cow eats the grass, or it eats the seeds, or it eats whatever out there. The sheep eats the grass. It then takes those amino acids from the grass. It doesn't eat other cows or other pigs or other sheep. It then links them all together to make the kinds of protein needed for a sheep or a cow or a chicken. Okay, so then you get the concentrated protein in there. If we eat that, we've got to take it apart. So if we go back to this over here, where are we? Went the wrong way. We go back to our pH scale. we'll see that from 3 down, you can't digest. You cannot digest carbohydrates under 4, and you can't digest proteins above 3. So you've got 2 separate amino acids. Here's 4, and there's 3. From 3 down, we can digest protein. From 4 up, we can't digest. From 3 up, we can't, but from 4 up, we can digest carbohydrates. And basic chemistry, if you've ever done basic chemistry in primary school, they'll teach you very well. You can't have a pH, 2 separate pHs in one container. If I take this glass of water here, and you can see my picture over there. If I take this glass of water, the pH, the ideal pH for water is 7. And when your pH of your water is 7, the water can be used by the body to transport nutrients into the bloodstream, into the cells. So we need a pH of as close to 7 as possible of our water. So just disregard the alkaline waters that are 8 and 9 and 10. Your body can't use it. You end up with inorganic minerals in your body. I don't want to go into too much detail and confuse you. But let's get back to the pH here on the glass. It's 7. If I took some lemon juice and I squeezed that into it, the lemon juice would have a pH of maybe 3 or 4. So it's going to go into the glass, and you can't have 2 separate pH values in one container. It's impossible. What happens is the pH of the glass would drop where it was at 7. Now the lemon juice is in there. It's going to drop to maybe 5 max, maybe go down to even 4. And so you've altered the pH of what you're drinking by putting the lemon juice in there. I'm not saying that it's a bad thing to put lemon juice in there, but for us to use water efficiently, we have to have a pH of 7, okay? So that's how your body uses it the best. What I'm trying to illustrate is you can't have 2 separate pH values in one stomach. When we talk about one stomach, you've only got one stomach. You don't have 2, okay? That's the liver, that's the gallbladder, with the pancreas at the back here. These are the intestines, the large intestines and the small intestine. You have one stomach. You do not have 2 stomachs. So you can't have carbohydrates in one stomach and protein in another. The only way to digest efficiently is to eat the potatoes with the neutral vegetables at one meal, and at the other meal, you're going to have proteins and neutral vegetables, and they're going to digest. Neutral vegetables are things like broccoli and cauliflower and vegetables that are not carbohydrates, basically. That's usually the colorful ones, except for the cauliflower. Your lettuce, tomatoes, your avocados, all of those things are completely what we call neutral. They can be eaten with potatoes, and they can be eaten with chicken, fish, and meat. You can eat potatoes with salads. Let's go back in there. You can eat potatoes with any vegetables. They'll digest above 4, and you can eat proteins with vegetables and salad, and they digest above 3. It's pretty simple, okay? If you mix them together, this is what you're going to get. It looks like a big explosion. You're going to get bloating, which is what I used to have. It's like distended stomach that sometimes felt like I was 11 months pregnant. I used to have to wear clothes that was elasticized so that my stomach could expand as the day went on. It can result in indigestion or reflux. It can result in gas, burping, farting. That happens too. Distension, which is the bloating, inflammation, and distension and inflammation together can cause a lot of pain, because if you've got a lot of gas and it's not going anywhere and you've got inflammation, you can be incredible pain. People can be doubling up in pain. They actually feel like, I remember saying to somebody, I felt like somebody had taken my intestines and twisted, and they said, oh, you must have a spastic colon, which was what they used to. It was one of those names, old-fashioned names that they called, which was really just for, part of the irritable bowel syndrome. It's this incredible pain from the intestines because you've got gas trapped in a space. You could be constipated, so there's a plug stopping it. It can't go back up and it can't go out, and you've got this gas trapped, and you're in unbelievable pain. You also have as well, it should be as well, you'll be, as I say, digestive discomfort. You're also producing alcohol, ammonia, and acetic acid. Now, all 3 of those A's are not good for us. Alcohol is neat alcohol. It's not 5%, it's neat. And so you find this mysterious condition where people get cirrhosis of the liver and they don't touch alcohol. And that's because they are making this alcohol. There we go. They're making it every time they eat. They're having bacon, eggs, and toast, or they're having cereals, carbohydrates with the protein in the cow's milk, and they are producing, it might be a tiny amount, it might be a large amount, it might be, it depends. There was a case study in Japan where a Japanese man got completely inebriated. In other words, he got drunk, he was intoxicated every time he ate a meal. because what he was eating was he was having rice and fish together, for example. He was producing enough alcohol to actually affect his central nervous system in his brain, and he would actually not be able to function properly. Ammonia is a powerful carcinogenic substance that actually encourages the formation of cancerous cells in the digestive tract. So if we go back to those statistics we saw earlier on, where we see that cancer of the digestive tract is in the top 2 to 3 of the type of cancers we get and the type of cancers we die from, you can understand that sometimes we're getting cancer not necessarily just from not enough fiber in our digestive tract, but we're producing ammonia, which is a powerful carcinogen. And we're producing acetic acid, which is very, very acidic. Now, the result of all of this mess in your stomach is that you could find acetic acid irritates your mucous membranes and makes you produce a lot more mucus. So you could find that your nose is running, but it also results in what we know as digestive issues here. And you can name your pain there. Bloating, flatulence, it doesn't matter. You can there's just several different types of pain. It could be the top part of your stomach, the lower intestines, it's all over the place. Oh, I wanted to go back there. I'm just going to go ahead here. No, it's coming up later on. I should move that slide. Let's get back there. With all of this fermentation and the alcohol, acetic acid, and ammonia, we end up with the molecules of our food not digesting properly. They're not being broken apart. They're not being broken into individual molecules like this. They're still sitting in a disaccharide form instead of a monosaccharide. The poly is many, di is 2, mono is 1. That's what we need. We need the amino acids in 2. And so if the proteins are still kind of joined together and partially digested, they get into the bloodstream and you get an autoimmune reaction to that. And we end up with what's called leaky gut syndrome. Like your gut is leaking, but it's not actually leaking. It's because you're not digesting your food efficiently. It's a result. Leaky gut syndrome is a direct result of us not breaking our food down. We don't chew properly. We mix our carbohydrates and proteins. We eat too fast. We eat the wrong foods. We're eating a lot of fried foods with a lot of heated fats in them, which takes a lot of energy and a lot of work. And we don't have the right enzymes to break down heated fats. That's another one. We end up with digestive discomfort and pain. Like Mark and I, we would have to sit up when we slept. Okay, now this is a fascinating thing because in a healthy sphincter, that's your esophagus. If we take it up there, it goes all the way up into your esophagus over there, and you can see here the sphincter has closed, so that when you're digesting food, this fermentation, they've actually got gas here, like it's normal. It's only normal because we mix proteins and starches, and this whole thing of eating proteins and starches came about with the whole food group theory. Now, before World War II, people used to eat very simply. They might have had a slice of toast and coffee for breakfast, or a croissant and a coffee. It was very simple. Or they might have had a boiled egg. You know, it wasn't that complicated. But after the Second World War, the American Agricultural Division said, farmers are really suffering. And they developed a way for us to eat. It wasn't based on any science whatsoever. It was based on the fact that they needed to get the economy going in the United States of America. And so to do that, they said, we need to eat from all the food groups together: proteins, carbohydrates, and fruit and vegetables. There were 3 food groups, okay? We must eat all of those together. So people started eating that. You were taught that at school literally from the 1950s. Before that, there wasn't all these problems. People weren't even overweight. If you look back at photographs, you very seldom saw obese people. People were slim, they were healthy, they were pretty amazing. They didn't have access to all the stuff, and they weren't being brainwashed to eat from all the food groups. So then the dairy industry became big, and they, after the ice creams and milkshakes, they wanted their own food group, they got it. And then the fat industry with fast foods and frying foods became big, and we needed more fat in our diet. And we do need healthy fats in our diet, but we don't need more fried fats and animal fats. So we had all these 5 food groups. We had to eat them all together for breakfast, lunch, and supper. Now, I wonder our digestive tract, so our food ferments. So they think this is very, very normal, that there's gas coming out. Gas is not normal when you combine your food properly. Carbohydrates, salads and veggies, protein, salads and vegetables, you don't get this gas. Nothing happens. There's no fermentation. So even if your sphincter can't close properly because you're suffering from hiatus hernia, or what they call GERD, which is just another way of saying it's an acronym for reflux disorder. I'll think of it now. My mind's just gone blank. So what happens is you can see that the sphincter is not closing, but if you're not getting gas, you're not getting fermentation, nothing's going to spill up there. And I can tell you that people have found literally within 24 hours to 7 days their reflux just stops altogether because they're not getting this fermentation. And that's really important. If you've got a digestive, even if you don't have reflux and you've got digestive problems further down, you don't want to produce the alcohol, acetic acid, and ammonia. You don't want to produce that. It's toxic to your body. So what we do is we resort to treating the symptoms. Let's take degas. Okay, let's take something. A natural formula, degas. This is a natural health one. People go and take all kinds of complicated medication. Antacid medication and digestive medication is very freely available everywhere. Very little of it is, do you need a script for it? So whether it goes from good old Enos to just take baking soda and put it in a glass and drink it. And it helps because it's creating, it takes any acidity that's in it, neutralized. Bicarb is alkaline. So it actually makes your digestive tract completely alkaline. And the more you do that, the more difficult it becomes to digest proteins. So that you're just actually making it worse, even though it's natural. So this is what's so unbelievable, okay? This is what they do. If you're suffering from this GERD or this reflux problem, this is what they are doing. This is surgery. I kid you not, okay? This is what they're doing. Believe it or not. It's called fund duplication. F-U-N. Now read that fund as in money, but it actually comes from the fundus, which if you look down here, you've got, this is the stomach, that's the esophagus, that's the diaphragm on either side there. And this is what they call the fundus, the top of the stomach. So you've got the stomach here and the top of the stomach, okay? So what they do, they call it the Nissen fundoplication. I think that's fund, and the cation is from, or ation is from numeration. They should call it a fundation. It's just a way of making a lot of money, because I know people have had this, paid an arm and a leg. The one woman that had it, they actually, her medical insurance covered, but not all of the surgery. So she had to pay another $2,000. And 3 months later, the symptoms came back. It didn't solve the problem. And she went, in fact, she said this, it never helped her at all. I'm thinking of another guy. The other guy that was telling me about it was the one that asked me about the same things to do for high blood pressure and for digestion. If you're going to tell me that it's the same things I need, I'm going to think you're a nutter. Anyway, he had the surgery. It lasted 3 months, and then it undid itself. So look what they do. They take the fundus over here, and they wrap it. You can see the arrow going around there. They wrap it around the esophagus, and then they stitch it together. Oh, go back there. Sorry. Ah. No. There we go. So they take it and they stitch it together, and it looks all neat and tidy there with little stitches there to try and close the sphincter. So I've never come across anybody that's lasted longer than 3 months. The one woman, we went to another doctor and said, this hasn't helped me. And he had a good look, and he said, doesn't look like you ever had the surgery. And she paid the extra $2,000 into it. So it either just undid itself because it's an unnatural thing for your stomach. And poor stomach, you're basically tying your stomach in a knot. That's what you're doing. You put your stomach in a knot. You take it round and then you stitch it. You may as well tie it. It's too ridiculous. It tells you here how it works. The fundus is wrapped around the back side of the esophagus, wrapped secured with sutures, which is stitches to anchor the lower esophagus below the diaphragm. You go figure that one out. Who the heck came up with that? Do you know that if you take a physiology textbook, like Guyton's Medical Physiology, which is considered like the one, it's got no pictures, a couple of line drawings in it, very boring, too many words. I've read it. There's a new edition every year, so I haven't read every edition, but it's not the funnest one to read. It uses too many words to say too little. But in Guyton's Medical Physiology, which is seen as the like gold standard of physiology textbook, it actually tells you in the section of digestion that proteins digest at a pH of 3 and below, and further along it tells you, or further back it tells you that starches digest at a pH of 4 and above. It tells you that. Now anybody, as I said, with primary school science knows that you can't have 2 pH values in one stomach, and they don't think for a second. And this is what happens is where we have this fixed mindset and we're not using our critical thinking skills or having a different way of looking at things, where we're not got this sort of growth mindset, where we're looking at it and say, how can we solve this problem? And we think, hold on a second, you've got 2 separate kinds of foods trying to digest in the same stomach at the same time. Maybe if we just stop this, like Dr. William Howard Hay did. He said, let's change the way we eat, and it worked. People in rural communities do not mix all their foods away. They didn't have the food group theory to tell us to eat like that. They didn't. The westernized culture is like, I mean, people sit and drool and look at television to watch all these amazing cooking series, and they are complicated. And then we make cars that look like cakes that look like cars, or a suitcase, or shoes. And we use all kinds of things in there, and people still eat it. All these things mixed together, we were designed to eat very simply, and we make it complicated, okay? So this is, cures clearly don't work. Listen to this. This is how to manage heartburn in a cost-effectively after PPI failure. Okay, that's a treatment top line. A decision support model for managing patients with heartburn in whom proton pump inhibitor, PPI, therapy fails, suggests that the endoscopy with ambulatory reflux monitoring is the optimal cost-effective approach, matching therapy to phenotype. Takeaway. PPI optimization without testing costs insurers $3,784 a year and patients $3,128 a year, owing to healthcare expenses and lower work productivity associated with suboptimal symptom relief, resulting in a loss of 40 healthy days over the course of a year. That's it. They don't suggest anything else. They're just saying it's going to cost you a lot of money and a lot of time and effort, and you're going to miss out on work and probably not get paid for those days. They're trying to cure it. They're not trying to look at what the problem is. The problem is we're not looking after our stomachs. We're not eating properly. So all this can result in any digestive and other health. It's very rarely just one problem, okay? Leaky gut's one of them. It can affect sinus. Allergies are not in this diagram, but it can cause allergies. It can cause depression, anxiety, ADHD, according to this. It can cause frequent colds and food sensitivities, acne, rosacea, eczema, and psoriasis in the skin. So this is what we're saying is leaky gut as a result of us not looking after our digestive tract. And look at all the things that can go wrong. Thyroid problems, Hashimoto's, hypothyroidism, Graves' disease, colon, constipation, diarrhea, adrenals, fatigue, rheumatoid arthritis, fibromyalgia. And then you go to somebody who's a natural therapist and they want to give you supplements for this. You stop leaky gut syndrome like that if you just eat carbohydrates and fruit and vegetables and proteins and fruit and vegetables. You just stop it. It stops and your body just heals itself. You're going to find all of this stuff, fatigue, rheumatoid arthritis, fibromyalgia, all of the stuff goes away when you eat properly. Candida overgrowth, very common, a problem in the digestive tract. Candida albicans lives in our digestive tract. It goes out of balance if we're sterilizing our stomach every day by making alcohol in our stomachs. Acetic acid, which is like it's vinegar, it's very strong vinegar, and alcohol are both sterilizing agents. If you don't believe me, what were we spraying on our hands during lockdown? Alcohol. It's a natural sterilizing agent. Why do you think it's going to sterilize your hand and won't sterilize your digestive tract? We drink a glass of wine with a meal because we have style and we think it's wonderful. What you're doing is sterilizing your digestive tract. And when you do that, you throw out your whole gut biome. That's your bacteria in your gut. And when you do that, you not only affect the candida overgrowth increases dramatically. So having an alcoholic or making alcohol in your stomach is like taking an antibiotic every single day. It causes candida problems. We all have candida. It lives there. It's a friendly organism, but it grows out of control simply because our friendly bacteria are not there to control it. So then they give you more antibiotics to get rid of it. Let's sterilize the digestive tract some more. And it gets worse and worse and worse and worse. And then they put you on the MEVI diet, the meat, eggs, vegetable, and yogurt diet. Doesn't get any better. I've never seen people get better. They just, all those symptoms of leaky gut, the fatigue, the adrenal fatigue, all of that stuff that's in there, the Hashimoto's, the thyroid, all of that just gets worse and worse and worse and worse. And all we have to do is just keep our meals simple, eat proteins and carbohydrates as separate meals with our neutral vegetables, okay? Constipation, diarrhea, irritable bowel syndrome, common. This is what we call the Bristol stool chart. If you have separate hard lumps, you are very constipated. If you have lump like sausage-like, type 2, slightly constipated. The sausage shape with cracks in the surface, it says normal. I would say none of that's normal, actually. I'd say a smooth, soft sausage or snake. That's normal. And it should never be bigger than the forefinger, your forefinger. You can put your forefinger up and look at it. Your bowel movements shouldn't be thicker than your forefinger. If it is, you're damaging your colon. Not surprising that we have colorectal cancer. When people produce in crazy big, thick stools and they have to sit there pushing for hours or take something to open it up, okay? You don't want this liquid consistency and no solid pieces. Mushy consistency with ragged edges, that could be a bit of inflammation. Soft stools, that's an interesting one with clear cut edges. You know, you can have slightly softer version of this. It's interesting that they've only put this, but that's really what it should be. Your forefinger, soft enough to just go to the bathroom and not have to sit there and push. You shouldn't be, excuse me, when we're talking about bowel movements, you should not be huffing and puffing in the bathroom. You should just go and it should come out. You know, Dr. Walker, Dr. A.R.P. Walker, he was the head of the Medical Research Institute in Johannesburg in the I'm trying to think when it was, 1980s. I went to visit him because he had done so much research in the field of nutrition, and he'd written a lot of papers, and I've been reading quite a lot of his research, and I wanted to meet him personally, and I knew he was elderly. I went off to meet him. He offered me some tea, and I didn't drink tea. I said, no, thank you. I was very grateful for it because he opened the fridge, took out the milk, and next to there were all the stool samples. And I just chatted to him about what he did. His little assistant Fatima was there. His wife was there. They all worked together in the same department. They all drank tea with the milk sitting right next to the stool samples. They were closed stool samples, so we don't have to panic about it. But he said, you know, if I need a stool sample, if anybody need a stool sample from any adult in a Western community, we have to give it to them to go home, and they'll come back with it in a week's time, because it's very difficult for most people to have a bowel movement. But he says, if we go into the rural communities here in Africa, we give them the little container, they go behind a bush and they just pop a stool sample into there, put the lid on and bring it out immediately. We don't have to wait. And he said that's because they're eating closer to natural than people living in the cities. When we do that, when we're struggling, we cause tears and you end up with hemorrhoids. Basically what happens is the tissue there just kind of starts, it's just so stressed, it starts to bleed, and it's not good. Inflammation can cause it as well if you're eating too much. If you're eating too much in the way of, say for example, you're going to eat 1 kilogram of dried figs, for example. I've overeaten on figs, dried figs, and it can cause diarrhea, and it can be a bit uncomfortable. It's happened to me, but I try and keep it to about 5 or 6 figs at a time now. I try and control the dried figs. Are so delicious. It's not good to be having diarrhea all the time either, because there can be a lot of inflammation and you don't want that. But you can get inflammation even with constipation. So this is a good guide to know that it shouldn't be more than you don't need the whole chart, okay? So what's the bottom line? There's no medical cures for digestive issues. There aren't. You've actually got to let your body repair itself. And the quickest way for your digestive tract to start repairing itself, especially if there's bleeding and inflammation, is to simply stop eating, which is like panic stations to anybody. Is like, oh, I can't eat, I'm going to die, I'll be weak, I'll fall over. Nonsense. I've not eaten and just drank water for 14 days. I've met people that have done it for 40 days. For me, 14 days was enough for me. My body repaired itself. I was doing it as part of my studies, so I was trying to go as long as I possibly could, and I had small children. But 14 days I was very comfortable, and I'd lost all my spare padding I had anywhere else, so I felt I was ready to break the fast. But if you want your digestive tract to really fix itself, you stop eating. Things like Crohn's disease, ulcerative colitis, where there's inflammation and bleeding, you have to rest the digestive tract. When you stop using something that is in pain and inflamed, like if your finger was in pain, if you hit it with a hammer a couple of times, I've done that, and it's the best thing is to just bandage it up and keep it in a quiet place and don't use it. And you do that for a couple of days and it's healed. So we know what to do when our fingers cut or wounded, or if we hurt our foot or our leg, we strap it up and we get onto crutches and we don't put our foot down and we rest it. And the doctor actually tells us, rest your leg, rest your arm. But when it cuts the stomach, resting the stomach, man, we just make it 24/7, 365 days for the whole of our life. I'm not surprised. Cancer of the digestive tract is right up there with the best of them. I'm not surprised. Fasting is not that complicated, okay? It's very scary when you start out. And so I recommend you don't do more than skipping maybe 2 meals. So you don't have breakfast and lunch, and you just drink water and you rest if you feel you're going to fall over. The reason that you feel your blood sugar drop is because you've got caffeine and alcohol and refined sugar and dairy and all these different things in your diet. And if you just stop eating, you can have some very hectic detox symptoms like headaches and nausea and pains in your kidneys. So I recommend that fasting is done after at least 100 days of eating properly. That you then do a fast. You get onto a natural, you use those 5 steps, you put them into place, and after 100 days of doing those 5 steps, you then decide you're going to do a fast by not eating breakfast and lunch. For supper, you eat something that's either fruit or vegetables. And you might find just something like some bananas, something soft would be better, not something that's got a lot of too much fiber in it. I would do the gentle fiber like bananas or papaya. That would be ideal. Soft, ripe, fresh fruit is always the best thing to break a fast with. Number 2 is food combining. That's not mixing proteins and carbohydrates, keeping the proteins in the stomach with the vegetables, the neutral vegetables, or the starches, but not at the same meal. You just got to make sure that you at least 4 hours apart and you won't have a problem. And then number 3, I'd remove inflammatory foods. I put there gluten is a very inflammatory food. It's a protein we find in wheat and rye and oats and barley grains. It's not in the leaf. If we sprout leaves like wheatgrass juice, barley grass juice, as long as that little grain at the bottom is not added when we juice it, if we're cutting it and juicing it, it's gluten-free. Dairy products, D4, dairy products is very inflammatory. And the reason it's so inflammatory is it produces a lot of mucus. When you're producing too much mucus in the digestive tract like that, it's an indication that there's inflammation. But your dairy can cause a lot of inflammatory problems in the gut. We found that people with Crohn's disease, ulcerative colitis, very often, if they just start food combining and take the dairy and gluten out, their inflammatory response stops. But the last one is AA, which is short for arachidonic acid, which is a fatty acid that you find in all animal products. It's in milk, it's cheese, it's yogurt, it's in fish, it's chicken, it's meat. It's a fatty acid that we can make if we need it. I mentioned it earlier on. If we need an inflammatory response, or we need to clot blood, or we need our blood pressure to go up because it's too low, the body will convert natural omega-6s from plants into arachidonic acid. But when we eat animal products, it comes in ready-made. So we're getting in this arachidonic acid coming in with breakfast, lunch, and supper. Every time you drink your cup of coffee or tea and it's got milk, and you're getting more arachidonic acid, causing more inflammation. Okay. Now remember, I spoke about being growth-minded earlier on. Your closed-minded part of you is going to think, I'm not going to give my coffee up. I'm not going to stop drinking milk. Your growth mind's going to say, oh my word, thank goodness that there is a solution to my problem. I'm going to try this. So I'm recommending that you just try it, because if you don't try it, what are you going to keep doing? Okay. Number 4, add more plant fiber. Those 5 steps I gave you is going to do that naturally. Number 5, exercise outdoor daily. We know exercise and natural light has a very profound effect on the endocrine system, which is the system that controls your entire digestive tract. Number 6 is chew your food well. How many times? 15 times. 15 times. I have to remind myself. It's such a bad habit, eating fast, that I have to still remind myself, and sometimes I still don't do it. So even I have to remind. It's the toughest one. All of those things are easy. The toughest one for me is chew 15 times each mouthful. Number 7, drink enough water. That's the basics. Make sure that you're doing all of that. How much is enough water? Before you eat anything, pick up a glass and drink a glass. This is a double glass of water. Before you eat breakfast, drink some water. Before you eat a snack, drink some water. Before you have lunch, drink a glass of water. Before you have a mid-afternoon snack, before you drink a cup of coffee, before you drink or eat anything, drink a glass of water, so that you can't have less than 5 glasses of water. And take a glass of water to bed with you. I know some people will wake up and need to go to the bathroom, so you may find it's just there for a little sip if you do wake up in the early hours of the morning. Okay, these are easy things. Anybody can do this, unless you have a closed mindset and you don't want to do it. Growth mindset, you're going to say, this is easy. I can do this. Listen, if you do all of this, I'm going to take up singing lessons, okay? And my husband's just come in. So, food combining. Don't mix foods that fight. Correct your digestion overnight. This is a chart that we send you if you get onto the program, the 100 Days to Health. If you do it, get onto the 100 Days program, you get this chart with all the things you get, okay? Here's your acid fruit, your subacid fruit, your sweet fruit. The 2 outer groups don't digest well together, but the inside groups, you can see there's an arrow there. Those 2 groups digest well, and those 2 groups. And when you go down to the bottom, the starches and the neutral vegetables digest well, and the neutral vegetables and the protein. So you never do the outer groups together, okay? You might be able to eat things like bananas on a slice of bread, the sweet fruit and the starches, and you might find that if you had pineapple with your nuts or seeds, or with in a chicken dish, for example, you might find it quite comfortable. But these are the neutral fruit and vegetables that can be eaten equally well with both sides. You can put, you can have fruit in a salad. That's not a big issue either, okay? So don't mix foods that fight. Correct your digestion. Literally overnight, you can correct it, okay? When all the 5 building blocks are in place, your diet will be 75 to 80% alkaline forming. It will help to avoid inflammation. Your diet will be high in phytonutrients, antioxidants, water-soluble and insoluble fiber, and all of this helps your digestive tract to start healing itself. It improves transit time. You'll find your bowels work more efficiently. You should be having at least 1 bowel movement a day. I've met people that have 1 every 2 weeks. 1 a day is the least. I can find, depending on how much I eat, I have between 1 and 3 a day. Depends on what I've eaten. If it's very fibrous, I might go more often, but it's always comfortable. It's not painful. It's really, very comfortable. But it should never be less than once a day, unless you're not eating at all. But I find that once I'm fasting, I can fast and actually have a bowel movement up to day 5. It gets smaller and smaller and smaller, but it's very interesting. Very interesting. You have started, when you've done all of this, you started to create an environment in which your body can heal itself. Your digestive tract should start improving at least within 7 days. That's the least. There should be an indication that it started to improve. The results speak for themselves, okay? We've worked with thousands of people all over the world. We've traveled all over. We've lived in the United States. We've been there, dealt with people there in the UK. It doesn't matter where they are, Australia, China, Indonesia. It doesn't matter where you live. Israel, trying to think of all the people, Holland, Germany, France. It doesn't matter where you live. We've seen people follow these principles and they improve dramatically within days. So you've got to calculate how much time and money have you spent trying to get well. I mean, it could be doctors, specialists, chiropractors, physios, massage, alternative healing. How much have you been spending? If you've been spending money trying to get well, you now know you can't buy your health. You can try as hard as you can. You can keep going to see the specialist and that specialist and this one. He's the best gastroenterologist in the world, and he lives down the road from me. I've known people to fly to other countries to go and see the best specialist. And they put these principles in place and their health improves dramatically, okay? List the excuses you've had in the past that have prevented you from getting healthy. It's genetics. I'm not motivated enough. I'm too tired. I don't have any money. What are all your excuses? List them. Have you actually been a good steward of looking after your body? I mean, be honest. Have you been looking after this body you've been given it? And if not, why not? And let me tell you this much. It's not the devil's fault. I know a lot of people I know. I had a woman who said to me she had pancreatitis because the devil's attacking her. I said, no. You're doing something wrong to your body. First of all, she had arthritis. And it was the devil attacking her. And then she went and had prayer and healing, and she got better from the arthritis. Probably anxiety that triggered it. Diet wasn't great. 6 months after she got well, she got pancreatitis, cancer of the pancreas. She was a secret smoker. She was smoking in her home, but nobody in the church knew she was smoking. One of the side effects of smoking cigarettes can be pancreatic cancer. My father died of liver and pancreatic cancer because he smoked and drank. It's not the devil. It's you. You're the one that picks up the food and puts it in your body. You pick it up and you put it in your own mouth, okay? All right. Welcome to put that in the chat. This is basically a workshop. Put in there your excuses. If you're too embarrassed to put your name, make yourself anonymous, okay? So abdominal, here's a total of 7,297,435 individuals with digestive disease diagnosis. They were included in the study. The point prevalence of having a digestive disease in the total population was 24%. So 24% of the people had a very clear digestive disease, okay? These 7 million had digestive disease diagnosis were included, but 24% of them had very clear some particular problem, okay? Annualized, that means on an average every year, total costs by clinical category range from $10,038 per year to $107,007 a year, okay? So $10,000 to over $100,000, okay? Annualized total costs for common conditions, that's in other words, indigestion, reflux, but they actually list some of these common conditions. 39,653 for alcoholic liver diseases per person is spending that per year. 42,544 for acute pancreatitis. More than 62,000 for Crohn's disease. More than nearly 14,000 for functional gastrointestinal disorders. In other words, functional means your stomach's still working, but you're constipated, there's diarrhea, irritable bowel syndrome. $14,000 basically. $53,000 more than for non-alcoholic cirrhosis. That means people that don't drink alcohol, I explained, those are the ones making alcohol in the digestive tract. Their liver's just particularly sensitive. Not everybody gets it, okay? 36,000 for ulcerative colitis. A total of 27,429, as I said, and 46 clinical encounters. Okay, those are 7 million people. 27, more than 20, nearly 27.5 million clinical encounters. In other words, occurred across all conditions during the study period, with 90% taking place in outpatient visits, okay? So more than 27 million people visited the hospital in a year. Of those people that was looked at, there were 7 million, 27. 7 into 27 is nearly 4 times a year these people were all going to the hospital. What a waste of time and money. Abdominal pain was the single largest contributor to outpatient visits and emergency department to home encounters. The results demonstrate digestive diseases are common, significant financial burden on the US adult population. Most of the statistics I use are based in the United States because they have the most, they do the most studies. They vary, everything about the United States is about statistics, whether it's politics or sport and health in between. Everything's rated on statistics. What a waste of time and money. And do they have a solution to this problem? No, it's just, they're just saying this is the case. This is what's happening. It's getting worse. You know that 66.5% of bankruptcies in the United States are from medical bills. Pretty much the same. The United States consumes, they use more medicine than any other country in the world. They're the top consumers of pharmaceutical products in the world. And so you're going to see more of that, more people wasting time and money. You can watch the video, Shocking Truth About Big Pharma. Get liberated from this trap, okay? Here's a man who saved over 80,000 euros using his blueprint. 1994, Marianne and Mark came to one of our Mount Pire evenings, give a lecture on the natural way. It was an eye-opener. The evening gave me my bridge between mind and body, and within a year, I managed to eliminate smoking, coffee, meat, dairy, started living comfortably with about 90% health. In those days, I worked in a stressful job, easily smoked 40 cigarettes a day, together with about 20 cups of coffee every day, red meat and dairy products. 12 years later, and based on today's prices in Holland, I have saved annually more or less. Cigarettes, coffee, adds that all up, it comes to 80,220 euros per, all over the entire period. And more important, I never use any medicines. Twice a week I do my 6-kilometer run, and almost daily I cycle about 20 kilometers, and what's more, I'm enjoying it. Not bad at the age of 63. You too can save euros, dollars, or pounds. Cost of having normal health just for over-the-counter Medicaid. Over-counter relief in the United States is $500 a month. That's $6,000 a year just for headache tablets, painkillers, sleeping tablets, antacid medication, whatever. Just for things you didn't go to the doctor for. It's going to cost you $500. Average person. And it pretty much translates to all other countries. And I've asked people, okay, this excludes things like your medical insurance, which is paid over and above that, and then it's excluding any extras that are not covered, like that woman that had that fund duplication procedure for her reflux problem, and she had to pay in $2,000. So it excludes all of that stuff, okay? So where to from here? You can take this knowledge you've gained tonight and apply it, and it works. I can tell you that now. You can take it. I can guarantee that it'll work if you do it, okay? But you have to do it all. You've got to take those 5 steps and those things I told you to do on a regular basis. Make sure you work towards fasting at some point, because your stomach will start, your digestive tract will start to heal, but somewhere along the line, you're going to need to do some fasting, okay? Give it at least 100 days. 84% of people struggle to stay on track with a healthier lifestyle without a community. You need to find a tribe. And what we're all about all the time is community, connection. We have daily email programs. We have Zoom supported programs. We've changed hundreds of thousands of people's lives, okay? If you've got a very complicated issue and you feel you can't just do a program where you're getting emails and you're getting Zoom, I do have a personal coach group that I can get you onto. You just need to get onto our website and sign up for it, okay? Who are these programs for? Our courses are for anyone who wants to get their health back but has no idea where to start. It's for you if you want to know why and how your body works and how you can work with your body. We work against our body. Do you want to work with your body? Then these steps and tools are going to help you do just that. You're going to take back your health, okay? It's for individuals, families, young, old, who are tired of dealing with irritating health issues, for people who no longer want to fear the next virus or dread disease, for people who are sick and tired of being sick and tired. You can take control of your health today, from today, okay? Thomas Carlyle says, who has health has hope, and he who has hope has everything. After 30 years of working with people and guiding them to take control of their health, we have found that there are many common problem areas. And once you have the tools to apply them and better understanding, this is what this blueprint does. It gives you the guidelines to do what you need to do comfortably. It gives you a track on which to run. When you've got a track on which to run, even if you go to a wedding, you get back on track. You know where your track is. And you've got a bit of support. I mean, we have Monique. We call her our, what's she called? Our freedom fighter. She fights for freedom for her health. She was doing so well. She's in Canada. I know she doesn't mind me sharing this because she shares it all the time. She was doing so incredibly well. And she was doing well and her health improved. And then she started traveling all over the place. She came to South Africa. She went to Jamaica, which is where she's from. She went to the UK to see some family. And of course, she didn't manage to eat as well as she could. It takes a while for you to find your groove in that track and not veer off every time you go somewhere else. Anyway, she started having some health problems. She got straight back on track. But what got her on track is she started coming back into the Zoom sessions. She started getting active in her Game Changers group, which is in the WhatsApp group. The Game Changers actually watch over you there, and they actually encourage you, and you sharing. You've got a community. There's several people in each group, and they're sharing recipes. They're encouraging each other. It's the most amazing thing to actually see. Incredible. Okay. There is hope for everyone. Make sure you have your growth mindset on and say, there is hope for me. Say it. There is hope for me. If you follow the blueprint and apply it to guidelines, you'll live in the sweet spot. It's like music. It's like the best music you've ever heard, okay? Your digestion will start improving within days. Your energy will increase. You'll sleep better. Your headaches will be a thing of a part. Brain fog will go. Your immune and endocrine, which is also your hormonal systems, will work better. And you'll find it easier to focus and manage stress and simply to live your life. I mean, who doesn't want this? Who doesn't want better digestion, better sleep, more energy, clear brain? Who doesn't want that? And what have you got to lose? You're just going to get healthier. That's all. The bowels are going to work better. So we give you clear, concise principles, daily support in a group, daily support and guidelines in the emails, weekly support with me on Zoom. When you get onto the 100 Days to Health program, or any of our programs, actually, there's many programs, you get onto any of them, you will find you're able to come to the weekly Zoom sessions with me and ask me questions. It's far more interactive than this because I'm not doing a PowerPoint presentation. So you see me live in Zoom and you're able to, if it's a smaller group, you can ask the questions. In a bigger group, you just type it into the chat and I can answer straight away. It's easy and affordable for anybody. It's way easier to get healthier than it is to stay sick. That's the reality of it. You stay sick, you're going to keep spending money there. It's not going to get any better. It's easy to understand and follow. You have 100 recipes and tips and 100 Days to Health and the 30-day detox for the price of the 100 days. You're getting 2 programs if you get onto the 100 Days to Health today, okay? You could go, you'll get well, stay well, take control of your health so that you'll never have to fear again and never waste enormous amounts of time and money. What would you be prepared to invest in yourself to be free of your symptoms? And how badly do you want to be well? I mean, what does your health look like if you keep doing the same thing? If you look ahead, 5 years' time, if I keep doing the same thing and I don't change anything, and I keep going from pillar to post and trying this and trying that, am I actually dealing with the cause of the problem? And what is your future if you look forward and you say, if you decide to do something different? And this is that different, and it'll be for life. So we've got a special one for today for the 100 Days program. It normally, I'll tell you now, we've updated it as of today, basically. It's new and updated. It works by dealing with all potential areas of digestive health slowly and carefully, day by day, week by week. We're not giving anything up. We're not telling you to stop eating chicken, stop eating. We're not doing that. We're adding good things. So in week 1, you're having raw before cooked. In week 2, you're starting to exercise. In week 3, you're adding the essential fatty acids. And in 4, you're getting natural light. And so it progresses. Down the line, you'll start to not mix proteins with starches. You'll actually find your digestive tract starts to improve even before you get there for many people. Once you get to the food combining, you just saw. I mean, it's just like that's the final thing that you need. If I had to email you personally every day for the entire period of time, so it'll be all together for 150 days. And the reason for that, it's 100 days. So you've got your pre-5 to 6 days beforehand getting ready, your 100 days, and then you go onto the 30-day detox. And there again, you have a pre-1 to 2 week program as you prepare for the 30-day detox. And during the 30-day detox, I've reformatted it as of today. It's a whole new program. And you will find that the first day you will do a 24-hour to 36-hour fast. And then you'll do just liquids for 1 day and just juices for 1 day. And then you'll be doing smoothies for day 3. So it's changed. We've updated it and it's included for free with us. But if I had to email you personally, me, typing that up every day and I'd send it to you for 150 days, I would charge you $1,000. I would. I really would. Daily support from a Game Changer for 150 days. A Game Changer supporting you. They are there on that WhatsApp, answering your questions. Every day they're answering questions. You're in a group, you're being supported. They're sending you recipes, they're sending you links. I would tell them they need to charge you $1,500. It's $10 a day, basically. For the amount of effort and work they do, let me tell you, that's cheap. Okay. Weekly Zoom sessions with me, I would charge you for 20 sessions. I would charge you $2,000. That's what I would charge you. You get a free, new, and updated 30-day detox for the last phase of your healing after the 100 days. That should be $300. We actually only charge $97 normally for that, but it should be $300. That's the actual one. And you get a free digestive booklet, all your digestive problems and what you need to do, and if there are any things that you can help that will help you, things like herbal fiber blend help to people with constipation, for example, herbal release. There are natural herbs and natural juices that can help you, essential fatty acids. You get a free Perfect Health book and chart in PDF. That's worth $25. If I add that up together, it's $4,845. Don't panic.